welcome. Good morning, UFO. I am your host, Amy, and today we're going to have an amazing show. I have brothers Chris and Sean O'Leary here with me backstage. They're lifelong alien abductees they've endured a series of terrifying encounters since childhood. Sean's a retired police officer, and together they're going to reveal decades of unexplained events that they've been through, missing time, contact with other beings. And this is Sean's first time coming forward. We had Chris coming forward the first time. We interviewed him a month ago. And so now, without any time being lost, I'm going to bring them on. We've got Chris and Sean O'Leary. Thank you so much for coming to the show this morning.
Amy, it's a pleasure to be back. Thank you for welcoming us. Flip us to whichever side works. So it's great to see you. You look amazing as always. And this is the #1 podcast as far as we're concerned. There's no manipulation. There's no filtration. There's nothing but intelligent questions and the search for answers. So you're the one. You don't seem to have an agenda other than cutting through the bullshit and getting to the facts. And you picked me. I just wandered into a space, the first time I ever had.
So weird, yeah.
And you were there, and you're like, hey, you know what? So here we are. And here's my police officer brother. Produce another one of those. Show me other police officers who have come forward with a lifetime of alien contact. So this guy's
exactly. And I think, Sean, we're just so happy that you're here. And like Chris, your brother's saying is, Chris was just messing around on the internet. You weren't too invested in Twitter. And you're like, let's check out one of these spaces. And he got on and he started talking about his experience. And I've talked to a lot of experiencers. He started talking about his experience in a way that, I've never really heard experiencers describe it. You throw questions at experiencers sometimes, and it's hard for them to have some sort of specific response, I guess is the way. And I was getting specific responses from Chris. And then he said that you had the experience with him, which adds so much validity to the fact that you guys are brothers experiencing this together. I talk to a lot of people who experience things, and sometimes they always second guess what they saw because they were alone or they were abducted. But when you have these experiences together, you can't really deny that they happened, right? Who do you trust more than your brother, right? Let's be like, it's your brother. I was immediately, and then he said you were a retired police officer, which is huge. You have to go through a lot of screening and a lot of vetting to become a police officer. So naturally, I became interested, and I was like, you got to come on the show. And Chris was like, what? And I was like, come on the show. We love it. We're here to support you. We want disclosure. We want this information out there. And Chris was like, we think this is BS. There's a lot of BS going on right now, and some people just need to stop. And that's that's what's exciting. This is you guys are abductees, and you guys are like, let's get the real information out. So thank you for coming on. Usually I could talk all day long, but I have my own show to do that. So and guys in the audience, live questions, they're open to them. So to kind of start out, when was the first experience that you both realized you had these experiences together? Was it more how did that unfold?
Well, with our family, it started with my mother. She was abducted in broad daylight while walking the dog in her neighborhood by a triangle that appeared over her head. This was the Eisenhower administration. That's pretty far. That's OG. We're OG. And they started taking me, the earliest I remember was 1966. Sean is born 7 years later. And the first one we agree on is really the pivotal experience that broke the hold that the aliens had over our minds, our memories. And that was 1974, spring of 1974. My brother was 4 years old, very young, and I was going on 10. And boy, if he didn't remind me, he's like, you remember, you were there the time that Mom screamed and she said,
They're back.
why do they have to come back? Why do they always have to come back? And he started the quote and we finished it together, and it hit me like a wall. And suddenly everything fell into place. It was like I don't know. It was like a Dali painting coming, just the pieces falling off, and the pictures revealed. And just that, in that moment, a lot of it came rushing back. The things that the aliens just didn't allow you to remember. That's their strength. That's why they get away with this, is because they can control our minds like we were hand puppets. And they control what you remember, and they don't like you remembering the experiences until they come back for you again, and then they let you remember. Because, I don't know, because they don't want to answer the same questions every time, or so you're brought up to speed on what you'll be doing, and you're like, oh yeah, all right, well, let's get in that ship.
Wow. So, okay, they come to you and then you kind of are forced to remember, and then they kind of put it back into your brain when you leave, which completely sounds logical. Voice to skull technology, like they're working on it. The government is anyway. So like the idea that they could repress it technologically, I think we could say in 2025 that's feasible. So they come back and it brings you back to all these memories that you've had with them, right? So you're only being able to pick up like certain memories, right? Because they're going to repress it all. Did they tell you guys maybe that there was an agenda for you?
No, I've never gotten a full agenda for them, what they're doing. I don't know what their ultimate goal is. I can tell you a lot about them, but I don't know where they're from. I don't know, what their agenda is.
They don't tell you. That's the bottom line, because it's not none of your business. They're doing what they're doing, and they're using you to do it. And that's all. That's where to go and what to do. And that's the level you need to know. They don't tell you where they come from. They act in secrecy, utter secrecy. And because anybody who's acting in secrecy is up to no good, okay? If they're slinking around in the middle of the night, grabbing children, you know what? That's no good under any circumstances. It's really frowned upon to, kidnap children for whatever you want to do to them, and then put them back in a state where they can't remember it, so they don't run to the police the next day or Air Force or whatever. Or they're, if anything, they're likely to tell their parents, who will not believe them, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened with me as a child. My parents, especially my mother, I would go to her and tell her, and she didn't want to hear it. But I was the first one to really recall these memories, and it's because of a specific incident. I don't know if you want to get into that one or not.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
all right. Why don't you start off with it?
Okay. Well, listen, up until 1996, I had no idea that aliens existed or flying saucers. I thought it was all cliches, or grays with big heads. I gave it no thought. And when I was a little younger than that, I would mock people who claimed that, yeah, man, it's all real. Oh, but there was an incident in 1996 which really turned our lives. It was an axis. It just spun our lives around on a dime. And what had happened was, it was August 19th, 1996. I was working at that time for the police department part-time as traffic and crowd control for a large thoroughbred racetrack here in town. They run the Belmont here. And I was invited to come over to my mother's after work because we're having a family barbecue. So great. I get out of work and I rush over there. It's only a mile away, maybe. It's a small city. And I get there and it's my mother, my aunt, and my younger cousin. and we're all sitting by the pool. Sean is downstairs, and he was still living at Mom's house in a bedroom in the basement, which is dark, which is good because
I worked the midnight shift, so I had to sleep during the daytime.
and it had heavy curtains and small windows. So, and my dad was at work, and the plan was we were going to start cooking up. My mother, she was wonderful. She was going to start grilling up dogs and burgers and swordfish steaks. As soon as Sean came up from sleeping, he had worked the night before, got home, I don't know, 8, 9 in the morning, and slept. So he was asleep downstairs. We're waiting for him to wake up, my dad to come home. But then, I'll make this long story and strangely detailed account very short. A flying saucer started to materialize out of nowhere. It was translucent. The image was warbling like a TV from the 50s. And it took a few minutes before it became solid. And because it was translucent, I thought it was miles off. The way when you see a hot air balloon in the distance, the image is warbling slightly and diffuse. The colors are paler because just the atoms in the atmosphere between you and it are an interference. But as this image started to take shape, it became clear it was a disc. And as it became more clear, it was spinning. Even though it was still a little bit not there, suddenly it was fully here. And there were shadows and light. It was reflecting the sun, and it was casting shadows underneath it. This thing was really here, and it was spinning, and it was flying saucer. And cliche or not, there it was. And I thought it was the first time I'd ever seen anything. I go, what the hell? I didn't even think it was a flying saucer. I thought it was, I don't know. A lot of people say that, like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, when asked about UFOs, is there anything to UFOs? He said, he pondered as if he was actually thinking about it. And he goes, people see a light up in the sky, far off, and they immediately think it's aliens come here and ships and then, and that's such a ridiculously cartoonish distortion of propaganda that he's absolutely wrong. Is my point, because
he
when
sucks.
you see something outrageous,
Sorry,
unreal, you don't go even if you're seeing it up close, and the closer you are to it, the more you're going to run through a mental checklist of what it possibly could be. You're like, well, it's not a helicopter. It's not a kid's Mylar balloon. You run down a checklist that gets more and more ridiculous because you're searching for anything other than the fact it's a goddamn flying saucer from a 1950s movie. And the closest I could come to an excuse was I thought it was maybe a promo balloon of like a big, because they were filming the Lucas Star Wars prequel trilogy at the time. It's a Death Star, hot air blimp Death Star, but it's leaking air and it's deflated down to a disc-sized shape. And, that's how far I was going before I go, this is a goddamned flying saucer. It's just what it is. And it's the middle of the day. It's 6 p.m. on a sunny August day. There's not a cloud in the sky. There's just the trees, the neighbors' houses, and a huge flying silver disc. And I look at my mother and my aunt, and they're standing there, slack-jawed, staring at it like in a trance. And even my little cousin, who's in the pool with his ridiculous goggles and,
I think he had a swimming cap.
a swimming cap. The ladies.
It might have been the 1950s.
Yeah, you won't get a date if you're a dude in a swim cap and the goggles. And he's sitting there. He's in the pool, but he's staring up at it, transfixed. And not one of us has said a word. None of us. But I was more alert than my mom. And
How close was it?
Oh, it was no more than 30 feet ahead and about 45 to 50 feet up. It wasn't over our house. It was over the property line between us and the neighbors. And I noticed very strange things coming off of it, very observable details that I haven't really ever heard reported. I'm sure some people have, and it just didn't get any traction. So, I mean, I got up and it's funny, they were controlling me, just not as intensely as they do, because there was no adrenaline. There's no adrenaline rushing through me. This is going on. I was calm. I wasn't scared. I wasn't angry at that point. I was the one emotion that was left was a curiosity. I was curious. So I get up and I walk the length of our yard to get closer to it. And we have a 30-foot pool, something like that. And so that's 30 feet and then another couple of feet to the fence. And I was almost under it. At this point, I could see that there was a black disc on the bottom, almost like if you have a globe where Antarctica is. And then I heard the voice say, "Don't get under it. It could be dangerous. Radiation or something. Get away." And I thought, oh, that's me thinking that. It wasn't me thinking that. I was in a trance, in a stupor. But I go, oh, yeah, that's a good point. And I backed right off. Then I got angry. I did. Because initially we thought maybe we were just witnessing something that was going to pass by. But it was here for us. It wasn't going anywhere. It had been 5, 6, 7 minutes. And I stood up. I thought this is going to go south any second. This could be it. And no, who's going to believe us if we disappear? Nobody's going to believe us. So I'm going out like an Irishman. I stood up and I raised my fist and my little finger to the ship. And I shouted loud enough for anyone in that metal contraption to hear. Fuck you. It was much louder than that, but nobody needs to hear that in the morning. And then the craft all lit up, went crazy. And I thought, I think it's time to go get the cop. My family's, I'm screwing things up or whatever. So I decided to run in. And I'm going to run downstairs. Because I'm torn. I don't want to take my eyes off this thing. But we need a cop up here. And Sean has a gun. And we might name this. I have no idea what's going on. So I decide to run in and I run up the steps to the back door to the kitchen and I freeze. And a voice says, "Oh, you don't go inside. You'll never see something like this again. This is a once in a lifetime thing. You should stay here and look at it." So I froze and I'm looking at it. And at the exact same moment, Sean is going to tell you what happened because he was up in that thing.
Yeah. You've got 2 different stories, the same incident, 2 different angles. I wasn't in on the other street or anything like that. I was inside on board that craft. The first thing that I remember is looking down and seeing everybody out at the pool. There was no obstructed view whatsoever. It was an unobstructed view. I wasn't looking through a window or anything like that. I could see everything around me. And I was elevated and I knew I was over near the neighbor's house. I was looking down at the same angle that they said they saw the UFO. So when I saw everybody down there at the pool, I got kind of excited. Hey, there's people over. Chris is here. Cousin's here. I wanted to go swimming. So I'm standing there, and the first thought that pops in my head is, and I say it out loud, I said, "Can I go swimming?"
To the aliens.
Yes, but I didn't see them at that point. And that's when I noticed off to my right side, maybe, 8 or 10 feet away, I noticed a being standing parallel to me, and he leans forward. He leans his upper body forward and turns his head to the left to look at me. And he says to me, "We're taking you to bed. You can get up and go swimming." And that's when I noticed there were two more, like directly behind me, one behind each shoulder. Now, these guys were a little bit taller than the one over off to the side. And I'm looking down at everybody, and I saw light reflecting off the pool like I had never seen. It was a bunch of tiny little lights. And I thought to myself, wow, that's weird. I've never seen a reflection like that before. It must be the sun's reflection, and because of my angle, I'm seeing it differently.
And when in fact it was, the craft had lit up like a road flare with tiny little needles of flame, and it was a pinkish, orange, yellow, almost kind of the color of a road flare, or like a sparkler. And that was happening as
I'm looking down and seeing the reflection of it off the pool water. I didn't think, hey, it must be this craft I'm on. So I just assumed it was the sunlight reflecting strangely for some reason. And I didn't see any colors in it. All I saw were like white lights. So what I saw was like kind of dancing off the water. So the very next thing I remember, and I was pretty with it. I was, normal. I felt normal while I was standing there. But then the next thing I know, I'm in the basement. And I'm groggy, as if I'm drunk or under anesthesia, which I've been under a number of times. Just very, very groggy, half out of it. And I've got one arm like this over an alien's shoulders, and the other arm's over the other alien's shoulders. And they're walking me like I'm a drunk being helped to bed. And I look off to the one at my right.
Now, at this moment, is when I ran up the stairs to go get Sean, but I froze. Something said, "No, don't look at the graph some more." And at that moment, Sean.
Well, before, I'm asking. I simply say I thank him. I said thank you, and he ignored me the first time. So I looked back over at him again, and I said thanks, and he just responded by saying, "Yeah," whatever that means.
Well,
he's very disinterested, or didn't want to maybe wake me up any further. So I know we're walking towards my bedroom, towards the bed, but I don't remember being placed into the bed. Next thing I remember is hearing one of them that's at the side of the bed in an absolute panic. And when I say hear, he's using telepathy, but I can hear it in my head. He says, "He's coming. We're going to get caught."
And that was me who was coming.
Yeah.
Until something made me stop and look at the craft some more.
And the alien at the foot of my bed, calmly, he wasn't worried at all. He says, "No, he's not. Not yet." And I remember thinking to myself, because I was still half alert as they're putting me to bed, or I'm in bed actually at this point. I'm thinking to myself, oh, who could they be worried about catching them? Is there some supreme being of some sort coming here, that they're afraid of? So it took every ounce of energy that I had to sit up in bed, look at them, and they were both now at the foot of my bed. And I asked, "Who's coming?" And that's when they both turned around, like I would describe it as almost shocked that I was up. And I wouldn't say panicked, but they were in a hurry. They were pressed for time. They both said in unison to me, "Go to sleep." And so I couldn't resist it. I flopped back down into bed, started to drift off to sleep. Next thing I know, I hear this pounding on my bedroom door.
They only held me back with that suggestion a few seconds, 10 seconds, 15, something like that. And then I said, no, absolutely not. I've got to get Sean. I've got to get Sean up here. This has gotten insane, and we need to get Sean. So I run into the kitchen. While all that is happening to him, I take the stairs downstairs like 4 steps at a time. And I go to throw his door open, his bedroom door open. And I put my hand on the knob, and I heard something in my head, which I thought was my own cautionary thoughts. And it wasn't. It doesn't make any sense. I said, no, don't open the door. Sean has a gun, and you might startle him, and he might grab his gun and shoot you. And I thought, oh yeah, I don't want to get shot. It was the most asinine thought, and it wasn't mine. Sean's not sleeping with his gun on his pillow like Ray Liotta in Goodfellas. Wakes up with Karen. Are you cheating on me? He doesn't sleep with his gun. But it was effective. It made me stop. And instead I pounded on the door with my whole forearm, at the risk of almost breaking it. Bam, 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 bam. Sean, get up! There's a UFO outside. Come on, quick! It's flying outside. Boom, boom, boom. And I run back upstairs. If I had flung that door open when they told me, oh, he's going to shoot you, I would have been face to face with them, and I would have proceeded to do 2 things. 1, scream like a 9-year-old girl. 2, poop my pants. That's what I would have done. That would have been my reaction to walking in on a couple of tall grays looming over my brother. And I'm like, this is a Tales from the Dark Side episode. So, but they did it with those 2 subtle things. They bought themselves the time they needed. So I pound on the door. John, get up to the lights. Come on, to the UFO. And
I tried answering him using telepathy because I was just talking using telepathy to the aliens. So I'm trying to answer him while I'm half falling asleep, I guess, as you would put it. And I said, of course there is. They were just here. And then I kind of thought about what I was saying and said, wait a second, what? And I threw the covers off. I think I put some sweatpants on and went running outside to try to see the UFO.
I had run after pounding on the door. I ran back up just to see, and the craft at this point had stopped glowing like a fire wheel, a 4th of July fireworks display. It had stopped glowing like that, and it was back to the chrome bright disc-shaped craft, with the black band around the center. And it had moved past our house, across the street, and towards the next street. And interestingly, it had turned like a wheel rather than the flat horizontal disc formation we're used to. And it was just kind of wheeling away, chrome bright, reflecting the setting sun. And then Sean came up. And by this time, his girlfriend had arrived, and Mom and my Aunt Missy and my cousin were, hey, what was that? They weren't in a trance anymore. It had moved on. And we're telling Sean excitedly, oh, and it was, one of those moments. And I look at Sean, and Sean was wincing. It's like, was the day too bright? Did he not get enough sleep? Because it looked like it was hurting him to be standing there with us, and he wasn't really listening to me. He was having trouble focusing, and he was doing great, for what he had just been through. We yanked him out in this important moment where they had commanded him to go to sleep, and I can't imagine anybody breaking through what they tell you like that. And he was hurting. He was coming around. And I said, Sean, we got to get in your car and we got to chase it. It's going out. We're 29 East. Maybe we can get another look at it or something. He's like, yeah, okay.
Now, I also want to point out, they didn't see me and the aliens float through the sky into the house. I can't say for certain, but I believe we were teleported. It's not the first time I was teleported, but I believe we were teleported straight down into the basement, and the aliens behind me were there just knowing that they were going to have to help me to bed, and that was their job for the day, I guess. So I went directly from the aerial view looking down at the pool to being in the basement, groggy all of a sudden with an arm around each alien and being helped to bed.
So I convinced Sean, let's go look for this thing. And did we use, was it your Stingray?
No, I think it might have been the LeBaron convertible.
All right.
I could be wrong.
All right.
I think my parents' car.
All right, we hopped in the car and we raced towards it, but it just had veered. You know, out here, you're either going this way or this way. And if something angles off, you could be miles from an intersection. And so I'm like, Sean, and Sean is still a little bit sleepy, but he's a man of action. He's a cop. He sprung up. He got his shit together, and we were on the road after the thing. And I'm going 100 miles an hour, you know, because this is the first time I've ever seen anything weird. You know, that's the kind of...
That's what he thought, anyway.
That's the kind of hold they have over your mind. There are millions of people out there who have been abducted their whole lives, have no idea. They'll live and die because they didn't have an event like this to break that hold.
Yeah, if this didn't happen, if Chris didn't wake me up immediately, there's no way I would have remembered it.
If my mom didn't needle me to look at it while I had a newspaper open in a very ridiculous position that I never would, but it was blocking my view of the sky. And it was all I could do to lower the paper and look. And that's when this thing was materializing. So my mom insisted I look. Then she went into the trance, and I insisted to get Sean, and broke into their return protocol of putting somebody to sleep. The fact that they're worried and nervous they're going to get caught is making Sean more alert, not less.
Yeah.
What? Who's coming? And they're freaked that he's not under. they do the double. You know, they both lean in and give you the command.
Yeah, whether it's hypnosis, I don't know, but all they had to do was say it, and I was falling.
And they're staring at you when they do it?
Oh, yeah.
That helps the potency.
They like turned, and, you know, they don't really have facial expressions, but at the same time, you can kind of get a sense they were thinking, oh, shit, you know, this is going wrong.
You can hear it because you hear their thoughts, and you can read their emotions that come off them. When they talk to you, there's an underlying emotion.
Sometimes, not
when they're
when
they're saying like, get on, you know, sit there. You know, there's no emotion with telling somebody.
And that makes sense, yeah.
But if they're
it's
angry,
telepathic communication.
If they're angry, they'll hit you with a wave that you can feel hitting you in the face of anger. But anyway, we get in the car and we're driving on Route 29. And I'm like, Sean, I swear to God, you know what? Flying saucers are real. I couldn't believe it. It's like a 1950s movie. I saw the thing. We all saw the thing. And Sean said,
they were returning me.
And my first thought was, oh, this is what I said. Well, I thought I had woken Sean up too early and he was still half in and out of it when he said, oh, they were returning me.
And I might have even said at that point, go ahead.
And this is what I said to that. I said, oh, no, Sean. We're not talking about alien abductions. We're just talking about a flying saucer that hovered over the house for 8 or 9 minutes.
The 50-foot rule.
Yeah. Like, it's so, like, in my mind, in my understanding at that point, it was such a great leap from a flying saucer, you know, hovering over your yard and your house for 8 or 9 minutes doing crazy things to, oh, we're not talking about aliens bringing you back.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's too much. And he insisted. He said, he was like, they were bringing me back. They were here. And in that moment, my reaction was fear. And it wasn't fear of aliens. I was afraid that my brother was having a mental issue. I'm like, oh my God, because we have
coincidentally at the same time with a UFO outside.
I know it makes no sense, but it scared me because I'm like, oh no, because we have friends who have issues, and it just destroyed their lives and their families' lives, and mental illnesses everywhere. And I'm like, but and it was shocking because Sean is the rock of the family. He is the cop. He's the one who runs towards trouble. He's the one who can handle any situation, even on his own. Even if 3 guys leap on him and rip his arm out of the shoulder, he's going to win, right?
Yeah.
One of them got thrown off a balcony. That's all I'm going to say. Had it coming. He's the rock. He's the one. He's the logical one, the rational one. And for that moment, it scared me. It really did. Oh my God. What now? And then Sean said, don't you?
Yeah, I said, they've taken you too. Don't you remember?
And I'm like, I said, I do remember well. I said, oh no, oh come on, Sean. No. Aliens have never taken me. And then he said, don't you remember the time that Mom screamed, they're back? Why do they have to come back? And then I joined in, why do they always have to come back? And it was the transformative moment in my life. Nothing's come close. Not losing your virginity, not smoking your first joint, nothing. And it was as if, I don't know if you ever watch like in movies when there's a Hitchcock movie, when there's a big dramatic thing, you're looking at the protagonist and like the background like rushes up at him. Like a dolly shot, just like zoom.
Like Jaws, Roy Scheider on the beach.
Right.
When the shark attacks.
It was my goddamn dolly shot moment. And I was suddenly moved from the world I knew and understood.
There's UFOs in the movie Jaws, by the way, but we won't talk about that.
And I remembered, and it hit me. It was as if somebody on the side of the road chucked a bowling ball at our car, and the bowling ball went through the windshield and hit me square in the chest and shook loose shards of my mind, of my memory, of my time, of my years, of my childhood, of my teen years, of my 20s, and they were all shook back into place. Now, I'm certain that this did not allow me to recover everything. I'm certain of it. But it's a substantial number of events with some very strange events that, and the details. What Sean and I really, and this, as far as I know, this is an almost unique thing where we recovered our memories, not because we had some dreams that made us look into hypnotic regression. It hit us in the face like a baseball bat because we fucked up their return. They blew it. They screwed up. They got caught. The curtain got pulled back on the Wizard of Oz, and we got a good goddamn look. And that is it. I guarantee those 3 aliens in that ship got in big fucking trouble, right?
Possibly, yeah.
Because they blew it. And here we are, and we're blowing up their game. That's what I'm looking to do. I want payback I want a paycheck for all the work they made me do throughout my childhood. What would my grades have been if they just let me get a fucking good night's sleep once in a while? That we were violated, and like nobody's been violated.
There's lots of questions, but based on waking up, so were you physically drained when you would wake up? after a night of abductions and you couldn't remember it, but you may have, like, did you physically feel more tired?
For me, I went to bed when I was a kid. I'd get 10 hours of sleep. I needed 10 hours of sleep. Otherwise, I couldn't function. And I don't know if I always dragged through school or what have you, but they certainly interrupted my sleep an awful lot.
Yeah, 10 hours, counting the 3 that they take you.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Wow.
And it wasn't every night or anything like that, but it was often.
The frequency was alarming. Alarming. And with me, listen, I was always a night owl, and I never managed to get up in the morning. So it was just my MO, but maybe that was why. And maybe that's why I became a night owl. And both of us ended up working overnights. So it was a subconscious way to limit our exposure and to be awake and alert in the hours that kind of thing really happens. I can't say.
Well, you guys ready for some questions from the audience?
Sure.
Yes.
And keep in mind that
Thank
there's
you.
only a handful of abductions that have been witnessed by people. And this is one of them. And I actually had a couple other incidents that people were involved in, but we'll move on to the questions.
I'm down to go whatever direction you guys want to go into. If you want to go into depth more about those specific things as well, because I agree. I just want you guys to feel like you have total form. And I know we talked about questions from the audience, which I know you guys are cool with.
Sure.
And so everybody in the audience has just been lighting it up.
All right.
Putting in a bunch of questions. And but I want you guys to be able to get your story out there. You know what I mean? So maybe we'll do it back and forth a little bit, right? And some of these questions might just be a quick little one, like yes or no liner. Because we did this with you, Chris, last time you were on. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're like, no, I think like one of them's, do you have an implant? No, is right. You don't have an implant.
I did. I certainly did.
You did?
I woke up while they were
Okay,
putting
so
it in.
maybe we didn't go there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was before Sean was born. I mean, they took me a lot before Sean was born. And we were living in Spring Street, 3 blocks from Broadway in Saratoga Springs, and they would come, and often they take you, they'd walk you out of the house. If you refuse to come out, they'll come in and get you, is what they will do, no matter how young you are. But one time, and they don't always take you. Sometimes if they can, they'll do whatever they need to do to you right in your room, right in your house. It cuts down on, I don't know, gas mileage. However, it's profitable for these creatures to send a ship to come get a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old. That's how you know it's not in my labs, because it's a ludicrous expenditure of resources. Well, that's not, there's 100 reasons it's not men doing this. 100 reasons. Mainly that we've been face to face with these things, and guess what? They ain't us. But I came to, and I was sitting in my little chair in my big room in Spring Street, and there were 3 grays. And how I was sitting in a chair, I don't know, because, I became conscious in that moment from the pain. One thing that will, they don't give you anesthetics. They just tell your brain, oh, you don't feel any pain. Well, sometimes you do. And you wake up. I woke up a couple of times from the pain. And this time, there were two of the grays were working on my nose, putting something horribly painful up into my nose, almost behind my eye. And I woke up and shrieked in pain. And the third one, he's up. He's up. We'll get him under, and comes over, gives you the good look. When they look into your eyes, I believe that the eye contact gives them more control. That they don't need to look you in the eyes to control you. But I think in a pinch, it's really effective really quickly. I can't say for sure. Like a lot of people say, oh, they have a mind control technology. No, they have mind control ability. This is them doing it.
I've also seen them use it by simply touching somebody's head. they touch your head. It's like they have full access to your brain and can control a person. I've seen them do it to people that aren't me.
And yeah, so he puts me under just enough to deal with it, but I'm still semi-conscious, and they're working away at my goddamn nose with the long, bony monster fingers and their big heads that are just, and the wrinkled skin, and they're done. And I'm sitting there in the chair like this. And they walk out, the three of them. They walk out the door. I don't know why. They could walk through the walls, windows. They're walking out my room, down the hall, down the stairs, and out the back door, which is how they often came when I was living there. It was just me and my parents. And as an afterthought, the third one, you know, they're walking out. He turns around and he goes, "Hey, don't try to get that out of there because you could kill yourself, okay? All right." And then they're going, "That's what you tell a 5-year-old? You know? Don't stick your finger in your nose. It's what you're telling a 5-year-old.
Don't pick your nose."
For these brilliant beings, they're pretty stupid sometimes, but I wouldn't tell them that if they were standing right here. No, but yeah, so I had an implant. Now, decades later, I had a car crash where I broke my cheekbone and I needed head x-rays, and nobody said anything or pointed it out. So
Interesting.
So they could take it anytime they want, you know. But so that's a question. Great.
Yes, no, thank you for answering it. Our next question comes from Will Carr from Canada. It's a question for you both. Once you saw the unknown object, Department of Defense images and such start to flood into your mind, like almost foreseeing what is about to come based off the technology. So I think what he's asking is, because I know him a little bit well, do you ever foresee these things start to happening? Do you foresee like a prophecy associated with the alien disclosure agenda? I know that seems like a leap from his question, but him and I have conversations a little bit here and there. And so like, do you guys have any visions or I see something happening, or before it happens, do you have precognition before the craft arrive? I think that's more in alignment with kind of what he's asking.
Not related to aliens anyway.
There's always a bit of shock, right? Now,
Yeah,
what is DOD, Department of Defense?
Department of Defense. So Will and I have had conversations where he's had some visions, I guess you could say. He talked about the reveal of an alien human body, or an alien female body and an alien male body, and the Nazca mummies came out. He always has these little I mean, it's written a little bit off, but I don't really. So anyway, but that was one of the questions. We did our best, I think.
Okay.
We love you, Will. We love you, Will. Hey.
There's one trend. There's an enormous problem in this field, and there's a lot of them. You know, we could give you a list of 10 things that would fix ufology permanently, but everybody's different. But one thing I see in this field, left and right, is human-centric thinking. That there's people out there who think all these craft. Well, we made them. We just made these craft, and we just trot them out for parades and to scare people. Mm-hmm. We never use them in a war, and it's us. And they make you think it's them. They make you think they're aliens, and then they make you forget. Does that make any sense? They make it, and they reinvented mind control. Yeah, and so it's us. You don't have to worry. People have a lot of them, no matter how educated or intelligent otherwise, they are scared. They're scared to admit that there are things that aren't them that are here and are more powerful and are more frightening, so they concoct all these absurdities to try and make, it's just us, don't worry about it. It's a big bad government. There's no aliens. And you had a gentleman on your show yesterday who went on and on about, it's just us. We made the spaceships. Really, we made spaceships that can go in and out of our dimension and no means of propulsion. When did we do that exactly? Because these craft have been buzzing America since 1922. Did we invent them in 1922? Because otherwise, your story falls to shit immediately. These are alien craft You deal with it. Calvin Coolidge had his phrase was a chicken in every pot, not a flying saucer in every pot. It's the work of fools to try to pretend that human beings are behind this. And they invented complete mind control too. Wow. Let me tell you, if the government invented complete mind control half a century ago, we'd be walking around working triple shifts for them with no paychecks. They would use it on us. They wouldn't just trot it out to make some people think that they were abducted. And so all the things that go, they invented levitation because you're levitated in abductions quite often. They invented the ability to walk through walls, solid walls, and bring you through them. Well, now that's quite an accomplishment. They somehow managed to dial their mind control field to gray aliens. All right, we're set for gray aliens, boys. Let's get in there. Let's get our Halloween masks in there and scare the shit out of some kids for no reason. And the hybridization, that's what they're doing. They're creating hybrids. Now, what the fuck are military men making hybrids between? Enlisted men in officer class? Is that what they're doing? They're finally breeding a colonel/corporal. It's really kind of low level thinking, and it doesn't fit any of the 60 years of eyewitness testimony about alien abductions and the way they work. They're just trying to throw people on it. I'm sure it came out of the government, this completely phony explanation. We can't have these people panicking. Tell them it's us. The big bad government. Sorry, kids. They're breeding half human, half alien hybrids, and they're moving in here. And that's why you'll never get disclosure, because they can't tell you that. Because people would stop paying taxes immediately. There'd be suicides on every street corner. And
how widespread do you think that is, Chris, with the alien hybrid people living specifically in the United States?
Well, my experiences are limited to a certain time period. If you read Dr. David Jacobs, who I agree with, like 200%, he's more on than anybody has been. There are already hybrids that can pass for human and are living here. And a lot of abductees report that they're not taken in the ships, they're taken to the apartments where the hybrids live. And they're like, does this look normal? And, the sofa's in front of the refrigerator and the TV's on the oven. They're like, you got to really move things around. They're taken to the supermarkets to see if they're interacting well. But now I'm speculating. And I don't like to do that. I mean, I can draw educated guesses, but my opinions aren't really worth anything. Only the things I know, only the facts of my life. And they told me to my face, soon we will all live here together and everyone will know his place. And the first half of that is like, okay, well, maybe we can all live, but then, and everyone will know his place. And I don't think our place is going to be at the head of the table. But so how far off? I couldn't say. I mean, they've been at this. Like, one thing that annoys us is people say, well, if they were going to invade us, they would have done it long ago. Why? Because you would have? Well, you know what? You're not that bright. You're kind of dumb, in fact, and so am I, and so is this race, and they're doing it the way they do it. They're not, you watched Independence Day a few too many times where they're going to get here, and that afternoon they're going to hover over the Taj Mahal and the White House and the Empire State Building and blow them to smithereens so that we can organize a military reaction, so we can be alerted and prepared and throw resources into stopping them? Is that why they would do that? Or it's because it's a stupid movie and all we got to do is punch them in the face. Take the ship. Who do you get? You get Will.
You just need psionics to take control of the ships. You just go like this.
Yeah.
I've seen it on TV. You just need a lawn chair and some sunglasses or,
Yeah, Sean, that's it. That's all you guys need.
You need to be bald. You need to be friends with Wolverine.
Yeah.
And, everybody's a Professor X today. And yet, these are still the same people that can't find their car keys in the morning. But that's a whole other issue. So I forget what the question was, and I hope it got answered. So
no, this is what I wanted. I wanted you guys just to ride with it, feel how you feel, go where you want, you know, especially when it's your first time. Just go with what you feel. Like, these are just, you know, this is just like, you know, some little ideas, right, for you to go with. So SJ said, hi, I have a question. Are the abductions totally physical experiences, or can they move you through solid objects? We've touched about a bit on this already in the last 56 minutes, specifically, you know, you guys getting teleported. One, you were talking about, you think they were using teleportation. And can you move through solid objects? I guess, yeah. So we talked a little bit about that, but yeah, Sean, yeah.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is yes and yes. They are physical. We are not, at least me, and I think Sean agrees with me. They come into your house, they take you, they put you on a metal ship, they take you someplace else, they do a whole bunch of stuff to you, and they bring you back on the metal ship and put you back in your house. We're not astrally projecting like Doctor Strange comics. We're not having telepathic abductions. Someone said to me, well, you know, a telepathic abduction is just as real as a physical abduction. We're the same, you and I. I said, really? Well, how about I'll be in a telepathic car crash and you can be in a real car crash. And we'll see if those are exactly the same thing, because they're not. The physical body is a fragile thing, and where it goes, you go. So no telepathy. They come and get you. It's old-fashioned in today's world of woo and CE5.
It's so 1900s.
Yeah, we are. We're so 1900s.
No, it's great. That's what I love is you're right. You're talking about the psionics, and we were joking about that a little bit. They put all this stuff out there, and then eventually people who are studying it, researchers, trying to get information are like, were they even physically taken? And you guys were, which is another reason I was like, come on my show. So many people are like, no, I was telepathically taken. Of course I was. But you guys were physically taken, and that is frustrating, not only for, I mean, you know, that's frustrating for you guys to hear you're physically taken.
It's kind of sad how backwards ufology has moved.
It's taken several steps back from what it was, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago even. A lot of the people, like some of the bigger names, are just, you know, I don't know if they're taking it seriously or just
deliberate disinformation coming from all these so-called whistleblowers who've worked for all these alphabet agencies, but now they've seen the light. They're going to tell us the truth. Nothing to worry about, kids.
However, they're not allowed to use the word alien.
Right. What kind of whistleblower? Can you call someone a whistleblower when they have to check and see what words they can say?
Yeah.
We don't have permission to say anything.
Non-human intelligence.
Yeah. One of the reasons we've come forward is spite, right?
Sure.
We're fucking furious of watching on TV congressional and Senate investigations where the speakers were the experts, self-called experts, have never seen an alien. They've never been close to a flying saucer working, or a triangle, or a cylinder. They've never been close, never been in the same neighborhood. They've never met an alien. They've never had an alien reach into their mind and communicate with them. They've never been taken. I wish, my deepest wish, is that this entire gaggle of liars, in my opinion, Grush, Blitch, Lou, Ross, and especially Dr. Grifty Greer, okay? Please, Jesus, if Jesus is real, I'm not going to call on you to stop abductions. I'm going to call on you to get those assholes abducted. And we'll see what kind of song they're singing the next day. Look, they have good reasons for preventing disclosure. I get it. I'm torn. The disclosure would destroy this country, civilization. But I hate being lied to, and I hate so-called experts who've never seen a goddamn thing. Did you know that I met a man who belonged to an agency whose wife had a dog walker whose cousin was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and met a person who works as a janitor who told him that it's all true, that they're just stealing X-Men children. That's all that's going on. It's us.
If you watch David Grush testify, not a single thing that he said in front of Congress was firsthand knowledge.
Yep. Right? Nothing.
Nothing. He
Nothing.
never saw anything.
Put us on that stand.
And he's, the biggest interview you can get.
Yeah. At what point do you actually ask people?
It's like when I was a police officer, if I showed up at an accident scene and said, "Did you see the accident?" And somebody says, "Yes, I saw it." I said, "Oh, no, I don't want to talk to you. How about you?" "No, I just got here. I missed it." "Well, you're the guy I want to talk to then. Let's take a statement." And that's where I'll base my investigation on, is people who weren't there.
This entire gaggle
Yeah.
of non-whistleblowers are doing their best to stay all the way away from what's actually been going on for close to a century. I mean, come on. Come on, kids, wake the fuck up. Start taking UFOs seriously. Stop with your silly CE5 circle jerks in the desert. CE5 stands for Childish Entertainment for 5-year-olds. And there's Ross Coulthard. "Oh, it's marvelous. My daughter is manifesting beings that fill her with a warm, fuzzy sensation, and they surround her. And where'd she go? A what?"
His
Is that his father? Is that what a father does? Lets their daughter consort with beings that really don't have bodies and they don't have ships, and they make her feel really warm and fuzzy inside. They're just light and love, and
it's the Pentagon who's the bad guy.
yeah, right. I support. It's a good thing the Pentagon never came out in 1953 or 1961 and said, "Bad news, folks. Aliens are here, and well, the thing is, they're a hell of a lot stronger than we can't stop them. We can't even slow them down, and they're not really telling us what they want, but they're grabbing American families like there was a 2-for-1 coupon. They're grabbing you, and they bring you back, but they do all kinds of stuff to you. But they don't let you remember because, they don't want you blowing up their gig. And, oh, yeah, it turns out they're kind of breeding us like livestock, like farm animals. They're taking your daughters and they're making them carry embryos of half alien, monsters. And then whatever offspring she provides, well, they keep it because it's their property. And if they like what you're producing for them, you're right back in the line to carry more for them. These are the people who are out there saying how they're jumping on me for saying, what about the good aliens? Where the fuck are the good aliens? Oh, well, they're there. They want to help us, but we're just, listen, if somebody has the power to help you and they don't, guess what? They ain't good. In fact, their indifference makes them kind of bad. So, yes, if the government had come out in 1961 and said that, it would have been a tectonic shock, and our culture would have been subsumed. I don't think you would have had the Beatles. It would just change the culture so much that people would have taken different career paths. The music wouldn't be so light and sunny, that there would be horror. And to this day, I don't think the government should disclose the truth. People can figure it out for themselves. It's a big difference between us getting out here and telling you exactly what the fuck has been going on for a better part of a century. You can dismiss us. You can write us off as whatever you want. It's hard to write him off. It's easy enough to write me off. And that's fine. At least you have the information. But for the government to come out and say this.
Yeah, take an official position.
Right.
Guess what? This is happening. It's not good news.
We agree. This is not good news. We agree that what they're doing is for their own benefit and not for ours. It's not to help us. Now, they liked Sean very much. They treated him very well, and Sean had abilities that I don't. And they encouraged that, and they were proud of what Sean could do. And Sean worked out a deal with them very early on as a child.
Yeah.
they paralyze you. They paralyze you. If you go to run, you go to scream, they just freeze you in place, completely paralyzed, to the point where only your eyes can move. And then they just put you deeper under control and get you out of the ship.
Out the door or whatever.
Or through a wall. Or. But Sean.
Yeah, when I was a child, I'm not sure how old I was, but for me, the worst part of the abduction was being paralyzed. So I relayed that to them, and I asked them not to paralyze me anymore. And they said, so long as you do what you're told, we won't do it. And they lived up to that up until relatively recently.
Until 2023.
Yeah. And that was what, a little over a year and a half ago. I woke up in bed paralyzed, and I hadn't been paralyzed by an alien in 40 years probably. So I thought it was some sort of medical issue that I had. I'm like, oh no, did I have a stroke? How long am I going to be sitting here in bed before somebody finds me here and helps me? And then that's when I saw them in the bedroom, and it was complete relief. I'm like, oh, it's just an alien abduction. No big deal. I'll be fine. They're going to bring me back. I didn't have a stroke. I'm not paralyzed. I didn't have any type of medical issue. I'll be fine. So it was a big relief, believe it or not.
I love that. When you're like, oh, thank God. Whew, it's only an alien abduction.
That was my exact.
That's hysterical. I mean, really, it's easy. There are things worse than getting abducted by aliens, right? Like you're saying.
And when you hit our age, a stroke is not a far-fetched thing. It's like I wasn't scheduled for 2026. But yeah, I think that is just, and that's a genuine reaction right there. That's, as far as I'm concerned, oh, thank God. It's just these guys. And they're paralyzing them again because they're probably extremely pissed at what we're doing. I hope
And
so.
You bring up a point that somebody was talking about, Flubber Lane. He said he wondered if you guys have had any nightmares or health issues, or have you had any cured health problems since this experience? And also, somebody also, just to throw this out there while we're out there, have you had any visitations as of late, bike race? We touched on that a bit.
Well, with Sean, it was what he was just saying was 2023, November 2023.
Exactly. That's what I say. We touched on it a little bit. So 2023.
And then just because we shattered the hold they had of us up till 96, it's no guarantee that things since then they're able to cover again. But I had a girlfriend who was abducted after leaving my house in like 2020. And had a big impact on our relationship, quite frankly. So those are the most recent.
You think you've had bad dates before?
Yeah, right.
You don't want to date him.
It's
That's
true.
really good.
That's my opening line on any date. But health issues, look, if they could cure stuff, they would have cured my mom. They had taken her since she was a child. They'd taken her all her life and her kids. And she was a lot more aware of it sometimes than we were. It's funny how it would come and go. But she watched her. She couldn't protect her children. She yelled at me to never tell anyone. Before Sean came along, I said, Mom, I remembered last night they were there again. And at that point, it was just me and Mom and Dad. And Dad, they usually give the old finger to the head.
Yeah, you wait here. We'll be back.
Yeah. And then you watched the tall, Greg. You were worried Dad was going to wake up.
Yeah, they had taken me out of the bedroom and walked me to my parents' room. And one of the aliens walked over to my father, who was in bed, touched the side of his head, and started walking back towards the bedroom door. And I said, is he coming with us? And he answered me. He said, not this time. I said, what if he wakes up? And he answered with the most confidence I've ever heard anybody answer anything. He simply said, he won't. But he was also thinking, who is this kid to question me? He couldn't believe that I asked him if my father would wake up. He was put off by it. He wasn't happy. And then he walked over to my mother's side, touched her head. She got out of bed like she was in a trance and walked towards the bedroom window. There was a light coming through the window. I still remember she was wearing a nightgown, fortunately for me and her. She got to that light by the window. She levitated in the air, did a somersault, and went flying through the window up into the light.
Through an open window?
No, it was a closed window,
Through
the glass, window. Right through the window.
So, yeah, but we've never been cured. They never helped my mother, who's probably provided them with more hybrids than a goddamned legion. They don't care. I'm not going to cure you. They don't give a rat's ass. You don't cure lab rats.
See, this is where I disagree. Chris and I will disagree on certain particulars. I think they do care. I've had them show concern for me in the past. They've even, I don't know if it was concern. I'd like to use that for Chris when they held his hand going down the stairs. Maybe it was more worried about what would happen if he fell down the stairs rather than concern for his safety, what it would mean for them. But they've definitely shown concern for me in the past.
They like Sean. Sean made a deal with him early on. He's like, you don't freeze me and I'll do what you tell me to do.
That's right. I used the word freeze when I was a kid. That's what a kid would typically use instead of paralyzed. I don't think paralyzed was in my vocabulary at the time. I told them I hated it when they freeze me. Would they not freeze me anymore?
And they were off and running. Sean would have fun, right? You thought it was fun.
Yeah, sometimes. Yep.
Yeah.
There were times where I was definitely afraid, but after I got used to it, it was exciting.
What about the time they floated you out the window feet first?
Yeah, that was one of the few times that I was.
Tell them about that.
Afraid. As a child, in bed, I didn't have any memory at the time of aliens or abductions or anything like that, even though I had been previously abducted. I see these beings in my room. The room's dark, and I'm like, "What? This can't be." And I was like, "Is somebody really there?" So what I did is I hid under the covers and I held the blanket over my head as tightly as I could. I was like, "This can't be real." And then I felt tugging on the blanket, and it was both fear and satisfaction. It was fear that this is real. There's somebody in my room tugging at the blanket, but they can't outpower me. I've got the blanket. And then I thought, oof, what about my feet? And the second I thought of my feet, I felt somebody grab my ankle and just yank me out from the back of the bed and held me up in the air. And I was levitating, except for my right leg kept falling, as if it's the only part of my body that had weight to it. My right leg. I was
laid out like in a magician's act, where it's levitating the ball.
Belly down.
Oh, belly down. Oh,
belly down, not back down.
And your leg is?
Yeah, my leg was off the bottom of the bed. The left leg he had a hold of and wasn't going anywhere, but the right leg kept dropping. And he leaned his head in towards me and just said, "Relax." And as soon as he said relax, I could feel a tingling go through my body, and my leg just lifted right back up as if I was weightless. And then I started flying right through the solid wall, feet first. So my head was towards the ground. Next thing I knew, I was outside the house, looking down on the side of the house and the roof, heading up towards a flying saucer. And the only thought that I had in my head was, they're not even going to know what happened to me, meaning my parents. I figured they're going to wake up, find me gone, have no idea what happened, and it'll be the last anybody ever saw of me. So that was one of the few times I was afraid.
And eventually Sean exhibited powers. They allowed him, or they gave him access to powers of telekinesis to perform tasks that they wanted to see if he could. And the other person he was with couldn't perform the tasks. But Sean was able to, and they were excited, right? They were proud of your ability.
Yeah. That's the one thing I took away from Lou Elizondo's interview is he said that some of the people had close contact, I don't think he ever used the word abduction, had the center of the brain was like there was a part of the brain that was enlarged. And it really struck a chord with me because they, in fact, did touch me on the top of my head. And I could feel the center of my brain as if it was moving, as if it was turned on for the first time in my life. It was completely different. And that's when I was able to do things. So,
Wow.
What did they have you do?
Telekinesis. They had what I called was a fire stick. I don't know if they ever used the term. And I know there's a product, a fire stick now, coincidentally, but I called it a fire stick. It was a pole, and on either end, I thought were flames, but it could have been like a taser type issue, electronically charged, but I remember it as like a fire almost. And it was spinning around in the air, and they wanted us to control it with our minds. And I had no idea what I'm doing. I'm a kid. And the thing swung around right at me and hit me in the side of the head at the ear, and it hurt. And that's when I looked at the other person there, and I said, how do you do it? And that's when the alien standing behind me touched me on the top of the head. I felt an electric charge go into my brain and turned on that portion of my brain. And all of a sudden, it was easy to do. I was flipping it around like a boomerang and swinging it around the entire room before they stopped it. And the one said to the other, the one who was behind me said to the other one, I've never seen anything like it. And he was excited. And the other one turned to him and said, I know, but I could feel him like telling him to calm down without using the words audibly. You could tell he was telling him to calm down. And that's all I really remember that incident.
So you're would you describe yourself as a really intense empath? Like, do you pick up a lot of energies when you walk into a room?
No.
Maybe. I mean, they were impressed with you. So sometimes some part of it makes me think that you're more you're very psychically inclined.
Well, Ross Coulthard had asked if there were any experiences with ghosts. And at the time, I didn't remember. I was like, no, not me. But now that I look back at it, there were a couple of incidents at work where I was at a call one time and taking a domestic report, and the basement door just flew open and flew back closed, slammed shut. And they both said, oh, it's just a ghost. And I just finished my report. Here you go. I'm out of here. And there was another time in City Hall that I could hear footsteps. And
it's a very old City Hall, mid 1800s. And there's the
American Bar Association was formed there, as a matter of fact.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow. And there's a dance hall on the top floor from those dance hall days. And it's rumored to be haunted. And you were up there one night.
Yeah, I was, it was early in my career, and I was supposed to be walking Broadway, and it was winter. So I just hid out in City Hall and kept warm and dry, and I just kept hearing these footsteps walking across the floor, and I'd look with my flashlight. There'd be nothing there, and I'd sit back down, and sure enough, I'd hear it again, enough that I got the hell out of there.
Like a woman's high heels.
Yeah, it sounded like high heels walking across the floor. But that's I don't feel energies from people. I can't tell what they're thinking.
And yet you're the most empathic person I know, because he takes care of all the wild animals he can. Rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks, crows. There was a crow with a broken wing.
There you go.
And
there you go. See?
He built a series of ramps so that the crow could still get up in the tree.
Yeah, he would climb up into the trees. Top. I'd get him up to the first level of branches, and he was able to finagle his way up from there.
And he eventually healed and lived.
Yeah.
As opposed to being on the ground where there's a lot of foxes.
Predator would have gotten him for sure.
Yeah.
I would consider that an intense empath for sure, Sean. That's really good. That's probably that's cool.
There's a possum. There's 3 or 4 different types of birds that I feed: squirrels, chipmunks, and the rabbits, of course.
And the most annoying thing is if you're out riding with him, we were taking a ride to go somewhere. He will slam on the brakes and halt like it was. I'm like, what the fuck? Like there's no other vehicle. He saw a squirrel on the sidewalk. And he keeps a bag of peanuts right in the car, and he's like, throw him a fistful of peanuts. And the squirrels, they run. They're like, who's throwing what at me? But they come back and they get the peanuts. So
and that's also an example of being connected to like universal life energy. It's understandable to be like, nah, I'm not going to give the people the energy, but to give. Honestly, the aliens will pick up on that kind of stuff in people too. Right, especially as I'm talking with you guys, and like it sounds like you don't even. I don't know. It's very fascinating to me to hear about the communications because it's like almost like they don't have to tell you because you're getting it telepathically. But it's also not taking that amount of time for me, right? Like I could just tell you everything I just said in 30 seconds in 1 second to you if I was an alien. No, I'm just sitting here listening. This is amazing, guys.
I think, and maybe it's the other way around. Not that the aliens pick up on this in us, and that makes us appealing for some reason. Maybe it's just the fact when you've been the lower animal, when you've been the animal at the mercy of the strong, maybe you have a little more sympathy for the other animals that aren't as strong as you that need help. Could be.
Yeah, that's the way I take it. I think that's influenced me to be nicer to animals. Not that I was ever mean to an animal. I've always loved animals, but I look at it as their life is just important to them as my life is to me. And I try to remember that and take care of them the best I can.
Any questions piling up, or the people fled?
Oh yeah, no, there's questions piling up. Yeah, I still got a bunch. So the next, do either of you have brothers, have military connections through the family? A lot of intergenerational contacts seem to be connected to military in World War II.
Well, we like every family, both our grandparents were in World War II. One was stationed in England, and one was stationed, fought in the Pacific, for God's sakes. And the one in the Pacific, it was my mom's dad. Couldn't really say. He died at the end of the war. It was a long time before our soldiers came back after we declared victory. They were there a couple of years trying to, build something that we wouldn't have to come back in 5 more years to fight all over again. And in that period, my mom was born, and he had to go back, and he died. So we don't know about that, but that's our only connection. But it's a tenuous one because everybody was in World War II. You shake any family that had been here, and again, I think this is an attempt to connect this to the military, like the big bad military is somehow involved, or that game. It's human-centric thinking, and it's going to let you down, man. The same thing if you start attaching Jesus to what's happening. You're going to grab the oldest prehistoric book you can find, full of fables and nonsense and hatred, and you're going to use that somehow to explain away this absolutely contemporary, current, now news story, this alien presence, the hybridization. They're moving in. I know how I'll deal with this problem. Give me my dusty Bible, would you? Which version? Well, give me the King James, the most edited one where they throw out most everything that was important. Oh, you're coming right up. Yep, says here Jesus. And I don't know, what's your opinion when people say, all you got to do is call out Jesus' name and it'll stop the abductions?
I never tried it, but I don't see it working.
I don't see it working either. So,
Well,
it's human-centric thinking. Just call out your magical deity who may or may not have existed in some way or another, and boom, they're gone. They run like cockroaches when you turn the light on. They don't care. They have no interest.
that'd be
in
great if they did. People say that though, right? They say if you say, "Oh,
Oh, yeah,
Jesus Christ told me to tell you to stop," and they stop. Wow, if it's that easy,
you
right?
found the magic words.
God,
It doesn't work if you
Jesus.
use it on a cop, and it doesn't work if you use it on an alien. It's like, no, it's just kind of like, you'll be fine. Hang on. So
Our next question comes in here from Andrew Rollins. Do you think these beings come from another density, a realm, a dimension, other than a planet in a galaxy? Are they from a physical planet, you think?
I can't say. I would be guessing, and I don't want to do that. They never told. I don't remember ever being told where they're from. There's a lot of time that I can't account for with them. I don't remember everything I've done with them. So maybe they have told me information that relates to that, but I don't remember any of that. I have no idea where they're from.
I don't know what a density is. Realm is like, there's a lot of realms in Game of Thrones. I get it. I don't think they come the long way. I mean, I don't think they're like, they're left at Neptune. We're getting close. How close? I don't know. A couple of inches. We're getting there. And I did see the craft come and go out of our reality. I saw it form. I saw it come through a spot. And some people can say, well, it's a cloaking device. Well, they're not the Romulans. And I guess it could be something like that, but I have no trouble believing they come from a different dimension. They're not hanging out on Titan or Io or any of the moons or the sulfurous lakes of wherever. And they're certainly not going to go the long way, from one galaxy to which galaxy is it? It's spinning. It's the spinning one. They're all spinning. That's not their game. They're just
Right. Not Titan or Io. That makes sense. Yeah.
So that's my two. Again, I'm verging on guessing, but I have seen the ship materialize in front of my face. And so that leads me to think they come through from somewhere else.
Great, man. You guys give such sharpshooter answers. It's just amazing. Shout out to Guy in the chat as well. He's resonating with everything you guys are saying. He's the same thing. No BS. This is what happened, right? People are just really grateful you came forward. Ryan Farrell's coming. He's jumped on the show before. He's a friend of the show, also an abductee. One that is legit as hell, guys. We got a lot of people in the chat coming out that are just feeling validated right now and just sharing things because you guys don't seem like you're full of it. I don't mean to be so transparent there, but that is powerful.
We're not full of it. The last thing I would want to do is out myself for a joke or what have you.
Hoax or prank.
Nothing like that. Everything we're telling you is legitimate. You give it the amount of weight you want to as far as evidence goes, but it's true. It's what's happening. It's our reality. I wish it wasn't, to be honest with you. I would much rather have lived just a normal life. Life would have been so much easier, but I didn't. And at least I can be thankful that they didn't kill me. They didn't keep me captive somewhere. They could have done anything they wanted to me. And at least they brought me back. That's the one positive I could say about it. And they treated me fairly well, a lot nicer than they had to, and nicer than you think they would. They were pretty nice to me.
As far as kidnappers go,
you got to keep that in mind. That's right. You keep in mind that they are removing you from your home without your permission or your parents' permission.
Yeah. Hey, kid, come on. We're going to play with your brain a little bit and see if you can do tricks for us. But here's a Snickers.
No, they never gave me a Snickers.
Yeah, they never give you any snacks.
No, I don't know.
They
If
don't
they
give a rat's ass. Right. But yeah, as far, you got to just bear in mind before you start talking about how good they are, that they're kidnapping children.
Yeah.
Without their consent, without their parents' knowledge. And they're doing things, they're taking your genetics and they're going to town with them. And you got to bear that in mind. They can be very polite. They can, where our strength is in our understanding of what aliens are like, the kind of beings they are. We've spent so much time in their presence, the way they talk, the way they treat you.
Yeah, they talk to you like a coworker might talk to you. You know, it's, if you had your eyes closed and didn't see them, you would think it was a human being talking to you.
Yeah, their understanding, their ability to reach into your mind. A lot of people have this idea that they're like robots. And whenever you see aliens that actually talk in movies, and by the way, the movies about aliens have completely abandoned you. They're a big farce with a bunch of snarling animals. They come there, if you make noise, they're going to turn it on. Meanwhile, they built this ship with all these, advanced physics properties and tiny wires, and they're doing that with their big bloody claws, right? Sure. They treat aliens as if they're snarling beasts instead of superior beings. They can be assholes. They're gods and assholes. That's what aliens are. They're equal parts gods and assholes.
I think you just came up with the title.
Maybe I did.
Gods
It's a new documentary.
I'm gonna copyright that for the book, because that's what they are. They are so far beyond you, but they're kind of an asshole. They're very egotistical, and they think what they're doing is so great, but they're not thinking about for us. They think it's great, and we're going to live here together. It's going to be great, and you're going to know your place. How great is that? Because but anyway, they reach into your brain and they understand the way you speak and the way you've been spoken to and the kind of voices you've heard all your life. And they are able to mimic that exactly. They are not robots going, human, you must comply. Oh, you will be exterminated. Like they imagine like a Dalek approach coming from these things. And it couldn't be further from the truth. They're so skillfully conversational.
I've also noticed it's not just when they're talking to us, they talk like that. When they talk to each other, it's the same way. You would think that it was two human beings talking to each other.
It's very odd. When you're within a certain range, you can hear them talk to each other and argue in English, in conversational English, with a lot of slang and contractions like gonna. Like when he said, we are going to get caught.
He said, we're gonna get caught.
We're gonna get caught.
And we're taking you to bed. It's not we are taking you to bed. It's we're taking you to bed. And it wasn't we're taking you to your quarters or your
sleeping domicile.
It was bed. And they've used phrases like top of the street and things like that. Phrases that humans use to describe things. And they got sarcastic on my ass. They used sarcasm on me rather skillfully, and I still kind of resent it. It was the time they introduced me to my hybrid son. I've gone over that with you, so I won't tell the whole thing again. But well, I don't know. Very quickly, they're bringing me back from an abduction. We're on a larger ship, and we're walking down a bunch of hallways. One thing: get your cardio in if you ever want to be abducted, because they walk your ass everywhere. There is a lot of walking do you agree? Yeah.
Ton of walking. When they get you to the bigger ship.
I think that's why they're so thin.
It might be.
Don't let their thinness fool you. They're strong. Like I said, they can pull you.
They exercise. Gym bunny.
Yeah, grayer size. But yeah, so we're walking and they're bringing me back from whatever they did to me in this big, big ship. And they're like, okay, hey. And we're walking into increasingly less active parts of the ship. I mean, when they're starting this walk, it's very busy. There's There's grays, tall grays, short grays, walking a bunch of humans this way and that way. They're in the hallways. Things are being done. And they're walking me to a more empty part of the ship. And one of them says to me in perfect conversational English, he goes, and there's two of them, two tall grays walking me. And usually in these circumstances, I find that one of them does the talking and the other does a lot of nodding.
Like me.
Well, I'll let you do the talking, of course, but that's the way they do it. And then one says to me, hey, just like that, with a drawn out line, goes, hey, we got a couple of extra minutes before we got to get you back. We're wondering if you would do us a favor.
Haven't I been doing that all along? Right?
What do you call my entire childhood? Right. And teen years. And I said, sure, man. You're sedated. But they can dial you up and down like a thermostat in a house. You can be completely out of it and still walking. You can be completely alert. But they're never going to let you be completely alert. Because your reaction wouldn't be, hey, what can I do for you? It'll be, oh my God, monsters. And you try to attack them and you'd scream and you'd run. I've never been in their presence when it's like a tiger. And you capturing a tiger in the woods, you shoot it up with a trank gun first.
I was just going to say, I haven't always felt the same. They didn't always have me under control when they came and got me. I think they liked the way I reacted to them. And I think that was one of the reasons that they didn't put me under and they didn't paralyze me. And they would answer questions. One even told me the future one time. So they really treated me quite well.
They liked Sean a lot more. They liked Sean. He was their kind of guy. You know what I mean? And I think it was partly because, maybe entirely because of the way I reacted to them. I wasn't screaming in fear every time they came to get me. I would get a little excited. That's for the most part, with the exception of the time they pulled me out from the bed and maybe a few other times. We had very different experiences with them, and they like this guy. I don't blame them. I like him, but
good guy. I like him.
So yeah, they're like, "Can you do a favor for us?" And when he said we have a few extra minutes, I knew he was lying. Because these guys are on a schedule like nobody's on a schedule. They're all right, Sean?
It seems to be. They never, looked at their watch or, so to speak for me. But yeah, there's no doubt that what they're doing is work and they got to get to it.
I've heard them say, we don't have time for this. We don't have time to do it that way. They're like, yeah, we do. If we do it right now and stop fighting about it. But anyway, he said, would you do us a favor? I'm like, sure, what? He goes, well, somebody wants to meet you. And we were wondering if you'd be okay with meeting somebody. And I'm like, wow, somebody wants to meet me? That's very different than on Earth. But sure, somebody wants to meet me. Who? And he goes, well, like this. He's one that we made from you. And, he's great. He goes, and his attitude at this point when he starts talking about this hybrid, he is so proud and so happy by it. I don't want to use the word love, but he's like, and he is great. Let me tell you, he's so smart and he's funny, which I'm like, that sounds like me. Sounds like both of us. And he's funny. And you know what? In his work group, he lifts everybody up. He doesn't drag anybody down, and he gets everybody to work their best, and everybody really likes him. And we want to reward him. We always want to reward him. And every time we say, what would you like? He says the same thing. He says he wants to meet his Earth dad. Which is, first of all, I should get that on a t-shirt, right? His Earth dad. That's what they said. Maybe they're just trying to be non-specific, And they said, we always tell him no. We told him no again and again, but that's all he wants. And he's just so great. We finally said, all right. yeah, you can meet him. So, you agree to meet him. So we're good with this, right? And I said, okay. And they said, he gets really serious and he says, well, wait a minute. Now listen, before we bring him out here, and they're saying him, it's a boy. He said, before we bring him out here, we got to tell you, he's not going to look human. He's not going to look like you. You're going to think he looks strange. You're going to think he looks really weird. And you just are, because he's not going to look like you. But you cannot think that he looks weird, that he looks strange. You can't think it. You cannot think it, because if you think it, he's like us. He will hear you, and he will be crushed. He will be so upset. You will just break. I don't know if he said break his heart, but something like that. You will just, it would be terrible for him. So you got it? And I'm like, yeah, sure. No. He's like, listen, you got it? Do you know what we're saying? You hear us? And they said, we're going to be in there with you, which meant my mind, meant my head. We're going to be in there with you. We're going to be in there with you, helping you not think about how strange he looks. Okay? But we can't do it by ourselves. You have to not think it. All right? And I'm like, yeah, I got it. Don't think he looks weird. Got it. Come on. Meanwhile, I'm only half out of sedation, and they're springing this thing on me. I don't know what I'm going to say. We're going to bring him out. You're going to talk to him for a minute, and that's it. Okay. They didn't give me enough lucidity to come up with meaningful questions like, how the fuck do we get out of here?
It's Chris's weekend.
Yeah, it was my weekend. And so I wasn't prepared for this. They just sprung it on me. What did they think? Anyway, and I was fuzzy-headed, but it's like, okay, we're going to bring him out. And by this point, we had gotten to this part of the ship, which was, we were getting increasingly narrow corridors, coiling tighter. So we've got to be like at the center of a big goddamn saucer or something like that. And we get to a point where it's abandoned, kind of. It's only lit like up to the waist. The ceilings are all dark, and there's just those strip lights that you see everywhere, and show the floorways. And there's equipment, and there's some tanks filled with a liquid, but there's nobody else. And there's a hallway that comes perpendicular and joins where we are. We're in this narrow walkway. And they go, okay. And they bring him out. They don't say anything. They communicate it was a female gray, like, brings him out. And there he is. He comes out, and he's beaming. He's beaming. He was so thrilled. I could read his emotions, as I'm sure he could read mine. And he was just this love and joy and fear coming off of him. He was scared, because we're the brutes, we're the gorillas, that we're violent and we're going to attack, and we're savages, and to them, and animals. You're going to meet a wild animal. This kid's meeting his wild animal Earth dad. So the kid was a little scared, but he was so excited. And I look at him, and for whatever reason, I didn't think he looked weird. They had done the job, or it could be that he really didn't look that weird. He looked like me. I saw the similarity. He had my eyes and my nose, and like my mom's features, kind of a little bit. That we take after that side.
And that's when they brought out Maury Povich.
Yes, Maury Povich. You are the high
That's funny.
Xenon 7's father. You owe us. So I'm looking at him, and my first thought was that he was adorable, and that he looked like, I'll tell you what he looked like. He looked like Charlie Brown. He looked like Charlie Brown. He had a big round head, short little legs, and just the same proportions. All head, no body, no legs. And he was cute. And even to the point where his head was mostly bald. His skin was pink. It was pinkish tan. He was more pink than me, but he was not a cold gray by any stretch. He had blood running through, and his eyes were big, not overly sized, but it was mostly pupil with a little bit of iris, but there were whites at the corners of his eyes. They were like mostly human. And he had a tuft of hair, just a tuft of hair my color. Like Charlie Brown. He's bald, he has a tuft of hair, a big round head. That's what I thought he looked like. And so, what do I say? They're like, go ahead, talk to him. Okay. I was like, hey. I was just small talking. I'm like, I hear you're really, doing great in your school or your work or whatever. And everybody likes you. And everybody's real proud of you. Way to go, I didn't know what the fuck he'd say. And they wouldn't let me think clearly. So the kid breaks the impasse. He senses it's just small talk. And he's looking at me and he points to me, to my shirt. And he says, who are they? Are they family to you? And, the kid's meeting his family. He's thinking maybe I'm wearing a shirt with our relatives on it or something. There were 4 faces on my shirt. And I said, oh, no, I love them, but they're not family. That's the Beatles. This is the Beatles. And he's like, just a little confused. They sing, they're singers, they're musicians. So I'm looking for some common ground. I'm like, oh, who do you like to listen to? And he's just a little confused. He's like, I'm reaching for something to talk about with him. And I said, do you like comic books? Do you like movies? And the kid is more and more confused. And at this point, my 2 grays handlers and the female gray, they move in close on us. Like they're ready to separate us because it's not, kids getting confused. I'm talking about movies, TV, comic books, and the Beatles, And they're just about to tear us apart, like 2 dogs at a dog park that aren't, getting along. And I said to him, just for anything to say, I said, what do you do in your spare time? What do you like to do for fun? And the kid looks at me and they go, oh, right, that's it. Pull him off that way. So long, you got to meet your Earth Dad. Here you go. And they're dragging me this way. And they're like, Jesus Christ. And I can hear the kid talking to the female nurse or teacher or whatever she was. He's saying, what were those? He was saying, what were those things he was talking about? What was he saying? And don't worry. She's like, don't worry. They're stupid animals. Just come on. Let's get you back. You met them. And I turned to the grays. It was just a disaster, clearly. And I turned to the 2 grays and they're looking at me like kind of side-eye. And I said, well, that went pretty good. And the 1 gray went, yeah, great job. Great job. So sarcastically, so bitingly. And they just dialed up the sedation and they took me back. And that was the only chance I ever had to speak to any child of mine. And for years, I thought I fucked it up so bad. I thought, what a terrible, I had a chance to talk and they never let me near it again. And I blame myself for talking about those things. They didn't tell me what to say, what not to say. But I've come to realize now, I'm glad I said exactly what I said, because that's exactly what that kid needed to hear. What do you do in your spare time? They don't have any spare time. What do you like to do for fun? And it was, and forget the pun, an alien concept to them. And I'm glad that kid heard that there is fun. There are interests. Because I don't think they let them have interests or fun. So anyway, so sarcasm.
It's awesome.
Anyway, come on back, Sean.
We got more. We got more.
Sure.
So, okay. So Ryan had a question about I think we covered this one. So, oh god. So SJ had more questions. Can Sean talk about teleportation a little bit more? Can you teleport from your bed to your craft, or do they still need to walk in your room? So that's interesting. So can they teleport from your bed to the craft, or do they still need to walk into your room and get you?
They've always come into the room for me. I don't know if they could probably teleport me in, I suppose. I don't know. But they have teleported me from the ship and not from the ship into the house without them being right there. So I don't know exactly how it works. I don't know what they use to do it. But yeah, they teleported me once from the ship to outside the ship, and from outside the ship into my house.
Wow, man.
And that's because I asked for something, and I'll get into that real quick.
Do it. Yeah.
They came to get me one time, and I was pestering the one. I think they pretty much assign one of them to kind of be your handler. If you have any questions, you talk to them. And I was pestering the one when they came to get me about something. I was requesting something, and he says, maybe on the way back. So on the way back, I ask him again. We're on the ship on the way back home. And so I'm asking him again, we're on our way back, and we do this. And he's just kind of blowing me off until one of the taller grays behind us, who appears to be in control, he overhears us, and he says, what's going on over there? And he sounded annoyed. And the shorter gray who was with me, the tall one was standing behind us in the middle. We were kind of up towards the front. And he slowly turns around as if he doesn't want to answer the question. It's like a kid at school who just got in trouble. And he says he wants to know if he can fly outside the ship. And he said it like he's trying to blame me for the disruption and bothering the tall one. And he asked the question as if he had absolutely zero thought of it actually being granted. He was so unconfident when he asked. He knew that the guy was going to say no. But the tall alien puts his hand on his chin just like this, looks off to the side as if, he's taken aback by the question, and he's thinking about it. And he raises his left hand, makes a gesture with his left hand like this. He says, well, it's not really flying. And then says, wait till we get to the top of the street. So a moment or two later, I don't know how long it was. Next thing I know, I'm outside the spaceship, underneath it, flying like I'm Superman, going right over the middle of my street from the top of the street towards my house, which was about halfway down. And I don't know if they did it because they thought it would be funny or what, but I'm right at the level. I'm below the ship, but I'm high enough that I'm going. The street was tree lined. There's trees on either side of the street, and the small branches, they kind of meet over the middle of the street. They had me flying right through those branches. And, I didn't appreciate it at first. I'm like, what? It hurt just a little bit. But then I had the thought to myself, I'm going to get the proof that my mother wanted. I'm going to prove to her that this is happening. So I grabbed a handful of leaves on a small branch. And when we got in front of my house, they teleported me into the house right from below the ship. And I had the leaves with me in the bed. I showed them to my mother the next day. And of course, it wasn't convincing to her at all. She's like, well, you could have got those leaves anywhere, which I suppose is true looking back at it. But as a kid, I thought that was my chance.
Oh, it was a good chance, though. It could have been a leaf that you couldn't have reached.
Well, I couldn't reach it. But
it could have convinced her. You never know.
Right.
How old were you? You said you were not 8?
I couldn't say for sure. Probably
Around there.
around there, 8 or 10.
That's pretty smart for a kid. No wonder they liked you. They were like, yeah, you're grabbing evidence. You're grabbing evidence to show your mom. That's beautiful. Yeah. And people are just like really resonating. Guy is resonating like crazy. I told him to message me on Twitter. We go, because then we could all link up, maybe do a spaces or something. He just says, you guys are the best. He says, I know you're telling the truth, and anyone else should be able to determine the same thing. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate that. And we are telling the truth. I've actually reached out to a few other UFO investigators, and some of them didn't even bother to respond. Some of them I had to hound a second time, and they responded. And some of them were very interested, and then all of a sudden, I stopped hearing from them.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say that in that incident there where he's flying underneath the ship, I think there's a chance the aliens might have been fucking with him by letting the branches hit him as he's going by. They're like,
teach him a lesson.
Yeah, teach him a lesson about asking to do things different and just let us do what we're doing. Could be. I don't know. They're very complicated
but
beings.
It shows that they're open to people asking for things.
It sounds like they were having fun with you. And I can understand when you've got everybody you pick up in the course of the day screaming in horror every time. And then they come get this guy and he's like, hey, what are we doing today? Yeah. Let me fly out the ship. I relate it to my own job as a police officer. I were doing warrants all day. And every time I went to arrest somebody on a warrant, they either ran or fought or screamed or kicked and threatened. And then you go to somebody else's house, you got a warrant for me, and he comes, I'm sorry, I didn't know this was, I had this warrant for me. Let me grab my coat and my shoes, and I'll just come right with you. So, I mean, you're much more apt to let that guy have a cigarette before he goes into the jail than somebody who was spitting at you or fighting or kicking you. So I think they appreciated somebody who didn't resist. That's me. So
well, then then it's probably easier for them too, right? Because just like you're saying, Chris, you're like, that's me. I get freaked out when they come by and be like, get away.
The frustration, and they got to be tired of hearing the people scream and hide and run or whatever they're trying to do.
Well, you know what? Don't come walking into the house and grabbing us.
It's true too. Yeah.
What do you want?
They've got themselves to blame for it, but at the same time, I think they appreciated somebody who wasn't as frightened.
I can understand that. Yeah, I really can. And you had abilities. They bring out abilities in you. So yeah. Any other questions or?
Yeah, for sure. They just keep coming in, guys. They love it. They've got tons. So the next one is from Guy, our new best friend. Have these guys ever felt like they were abducted by the U.S. military or military? I never believed that stuff, but my friend swore it happened.
Well, long story short, your friends are idiots. It doesn't happen. The military doesn't have flying saucers. They can't make you think they're aliens. They can't levitate you, control your mind. If the military had mind control, we'd all be marching in rows wearing uniforms.
And they wouldn't use it on 4 or 8-year-olds or 10-year-olds or 12-year-olds and then make you forget the event entirely in the first place.
Yeah, that's right. Wait a minute. They're using that advanced army mind control to make you think that they're gray aliens. They said it so specifically that it's gray aliens and the mantis and the short one and the tall one. That's what they see. And it's just them with their mind control field. And then they go pick up toddlers in this, craft that's more advanced than any weaponry any humans have ever had. Which, by the way, was showing up here in America in the 1920s. So we didn't invent this shit. And then they go get a couple of toddlers. That's their evening. They go get a couple of toddlers. And the whole hybrid thing, what are they making hybrids out of? Or is that just a covered story that the mind control field? It's horse shit people don't have these abilities. They don't have this technology. If we back engineered a craft or two, I wouldn't, or fixed one up. I don't know. Possible. But they're certainly not sending groups around abducting kindergartners and bringing them back 2 hours later after they do what they're doing. And it's not the military. Grow up, okay? You know what? When I was born, there were no planets that we knew about other than the solar system. That was it. Everything else, we were guessing that other stars might have planets. Now, of course, we've mapped several thousand planets to the point where we can tell if they have magnetic fields, how big they are, if there's water, etc. But there were just these planets, okay? So to think that, and so we understand that there are beings out there that are more advanced than us, bet dollars to donut on that. And yet it's so hard for so many people with an interest in this field to get over the fact that, yeah, there are aliens and here they are. It's not Sergeant Perkins on his, in the National Guard coming to take you out of your bedroom, walk into your house and put your dad to sleep with his bony gray finger. It's stupid. Start listening to the people who tell you what's going on, the people who were there. We were there. And it's the military. I don't know. I think if our military is so vaunted, why is Ukraine falling? Give me a goddamn break. How come we lost Vietnam? If our military, hey, can we go win Vietnam? Well, we could, sir. But we have to reroute several ships that are picking up 4-year-olds this weekend. Boy, that's all right. Pick up the kids. We'll just surrender in Vietnam. We'll have one helicopter pick the last people up. We could send a saucer. No, let's just go with a helicopter. We've got kids to grab. It's stupid. Just grow up. You're grown-ups. You have brains. What's the military do? Don't worry, it's just the military. Another excuse is, don't worry, it's just us from the future.
So Diane's got a good question about
What's
your
that?
babies, about your alien babies. I'm sorry I said it that way. I just Earth Dad. I don't know. It's just alien babies. We're just so it's
Call me
good.
Earth Dad. I'm Earth Dad.
Do they send any of your kids, your alien hybrid children, that look human to Earth to live here? I would assume. You don't know.
I think that's the plan, but I think they've had to make several subsequent generations of hybrids till they look fully human. That would be my guess. I don't know if my kid was here on Earth. He didn't look like he would pass for human, no matter how he grew. Leave that pig alone. The dog's playing.
That makes sense. They couldn't pass as human.
This one couldn't. He was like halfway there, but allegedly by some researchers like Dr. David Jacobs, they are at a level where they can pass, and they are living here and moving in. I mean, that's what they're building to. They've told me to my face. Tall Grays have looked me in the face and said, soon we will all live here together, and everyone will know his place. Several times over the years. That's what they're doing. And they think I should be more excited about it. One time I had a bad attitude. They're walking me all over after no sleep. And he's like, come on, pick up the pace. We got to get over to here. We got to get to, biogenetics. I don't know. All these places we got to get to. And I'm like, I actually said, and he stops. And you're serious when the tall gray stops. And he says, leans and looks into me and goes, what's your problem? And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. And he said, well, you better turn that attitude around. Like right now, do you know how lucky you are? Do you know how lucky you are to be part of this? Do you have any idea how lucky to be included in this great, sweeping project? I don't think he said the word project. This So you better just get yourself a little more grateful and appreciative and pick up the pace and let's do what we have to get done. You got it? They said you got it to me. You got it?
Got it.
Okay.
Crazy.
So I don't know what the question was, but yeah, it's not the military. It's not the military. Just stop it, kids. It's not us from the future. The other day, somebody told me it was us from the past in another dimension. It's not. They're not even mammals, man. They're not even close to mammals, and they have a hybrid, a hive mind, telepathic powers. When did we? Oh my God! So it's aliens. Get used to it. It's not like this should be news. Like Betty and Barney Hill was before almost all your listeners were born. Probably the parents of the people watching. The military. Oy vey. Oy vey, Amy.
So we got more though.
Oh, please.
We got more.
No, I don't mean to give that guy a hard time.
No. Everybody's cool. Everybody's cool.
His interest, and he's saying his friends told him. Well, my friends were taken. Their opinions.
Oh.
No more valid.
Our viewers are so cool. Our viewers are so cool. They're so chill. They're open to different opinions, and that's what we like about each other. Is sometimes we disagree, but we like to talk to each other and be like, "What's going on?" Like, no, our group, you're in a good spot. Nobody's gonna get crying. Nobody's gonna cry in the chat. So, question from a couple people. One that comes back is they just want specifics about when was the last time. Both you, Chris, when was the last time you remembered an abduction? And I know we talked about briefly 2023. And then also for you, Sean, when was the last time you remembered your abduction? Because it could be different times, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, with Sean, it was a year and a half ago. With me, it was back in they took me for about 20 years. And then I moved away. I moved to Albany and the state capital. And I had an apartment, the corner of Eagle Street and Madison Place, which placed me exactly across the street from the governor's mansion. I could throw a baseball into the governor's yard. We were only 100 feet from Governor Mario M. Cuomo at the time. That was the mansion, and it was heavily guarded and watched, and also was on a hill with the state capitol right there as well. The state capitol, it's the background in all of our local news shots every day. So it's a very exposed place to come and get me. They just didn't take me anymore. They took me for 20 years. And I don't know why, but I remember nothing else. When the walls came down in 96, all the abductions that I could now count on, all my memories, my solid, detailed memories of everything down to dialogue. There was nothing past the point I moved away to New York. So they stopped taking me about, 86, something like that. And then, of course, 96, boom, we're back in the middle of the goddamn thing. But
the last thing he saw, though, was a couple of years ago. An orb came through the house.
Oh, yeah. Well, since 96, a lot of things. I saw a giant cylinder zip down over our roof, down our street. The thing was the size of a couple of jetliners. Silent. It had 4 little oars like fins, 2 on each side. It had no tail. It had no... it was a silver cylinder, and it zipped by so fast. I only got a couple of seconds to see it. It was, my mom and I had been sitting outside, and it was getting late. She had to go in and start dinner for my dad. And the last thing I said to her, I just, because we were going all over the 96 experience again. I said, I just want to see another one, just so I know. And she goes, yeah, well, good luck with that. And goes inside, and zip, it goes by, goes over I summoned it with my psionic CE5 powers. Nope, it just went zip. And it was quite compelling. And then we've seen we saw a disc craft in our backyard going like this. And it wasn't in our backyard, but we were in the backyard. Joe goes, look over there. And it was this craft, and it was a little ways away, and it was performing these strange maneuvers as it tumbled straight across. And it was a disc. You could see it clearly. So, and of course, then I went and I got all kinds of footage in the year 2000 of like small triangles and other craft here in Saratoga County. One flew over my head in 99, and it looked like a goddamn building. It was like rectangular, and it was covered with panels of different colored lights, and it went right over my goddamn head on Henning Road. And I said, I am never going to be caught.
That's where I saw the same craft. I saw a big rectangular craft with colored lights on the bottom of it. And I was on Henning Road with a friend. We were out taking a ride in my Corvette, and we gave chase to it. But the angles, you just couldn't keep up with it. You know, you got to follow the streets. It didn't. It flew over the racetrack, and it was gone. But that's funny. It was the same street.
Yeah. And after that, I got a camcorder, and I wouldn't go anywhere without it. And I started catching video evidence of triangles and performing very strange aeronautical maneuvers. And it was a good camcorder, and you could see two triangles go like this, right at each other, maybe a foot apart, and then one would loop up and over, and they started leapfrogging each other. So I took all this footage, and at that very moment, the first week in January of 2000, there was a spate of sightings and incidents just down the road from us. They contacted MUFON, and the MUFON chapter head said, you got to talk to this Chris O'Leary guy. He's got some compelling footage. So they came and they interviewed me. It was our local CBS affiliate, WRGB TV6, the oldest TV channel that's still operating in the country. And they came, they sent somebody, can we get a copy of this? Can we run a copy of this footage? I said, yeah, go ahead. And thought nothing more of it until that night they were running a promo in between all the primetime channels on shows, between Dr. Quinn and Walker, Texas Ranger, and then the show after that. Like, tune in at 11. You will not want to miss this. UFOs over Saratoga County, convincing evidence, only here on WRGB. And I'm like, oh, well, all right. Because, you know, they were promoting it. And that's my footage they took. So, you know, I was worried that they were going to be like, oh, hey, before the weather, here's another one from the crackpot file. There's a guy up in Saratoga who claims that flying saucers. Well, that's a crazy one. Tomorrow's going to be 72. You know, that's what I was worried, because that's the way that was the par for the course. That's how they treat people who say this is real. So I'm like, no, they lead with it. And the news reporter, who's still there, by the way, Liz Bishop, this was January 10th of 2000, said, are there UFOs in the capital region? A Saratoga man provides us convincing evidence that the capital region is being watched. And then they run it, and they run my interview, and I was like, okay. It was very satisfying. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, all right. Job done right here. Take that, my alien friends. And they closed with it's the evidence is being examined now by Peter Davenport at the National UFO Reporting Center, etc. Just straight up news, like it was news, man. And that was completely unlike them. And I thought nothing of it until I got called that in the middle of the night. I got calls from friends in California. Like, you were just on the news. I'm like, yeah, here local. They said, no, man, CBS News picked it up, and was CBS overnight news picked it up and ran it all around the country like 4 times during the night. And I got a lot of calls. I got a lot of interest, and a couple of groups came up to see if they could see something. And guess what? They did. So, and
I don't know if Chris, this is not related entirely, but I don't know if Chris told you on his first interview with you that we had Bud Hopkins come up and personally investigate our case. And him and Oliver Kamensky, they were both working for Intruders Foundation at the time out of New York City. They came up for a weekend, talked to Chris and I and a few other witnesses related to us. And I don't know if it was
the weekend.
Yeah, stayed the weekend.
Interview our whole family.
Interviewed the family. Looked at some of the locations of where things had happened. We didn't just tell them the one incident in 96. We talked about some of these others we've shared with you and others that we haven't yet. And he was a guest on CNN's Larry King Live at the time. It was CNN's most popular show in the history of their network. Not necessarily this episode, but Larry King Live was. And Bud Hopkins was on Larry King July 5th, it might have been July 5th, 2005, and mentioned our case, calling it an important case.
Because it involves an active duty police officer.
Yeah, with witnesses. Witnessed abductions are very rare.
Yeah.
I try to explain this to some people like Ross and a couple other podcasts, and I don't know if they're just not as impressed as they should be. I don't know.
It's the narrative they're trying to control, to own, to dismiss.
They're looking for people they can control. And that's why people really like listening to you guys. That's why people in the chat are like, this is great. Because if you can't be controlled, they run away pretty fast. If you're like a hardcore voice that's like, no, this is, they tend to run away.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And it's two voices. It would have been three, but my mother's gone. And that was one thing when Bud came. We got my parents to agree to talk to him, please. My dad, of course, is very reluctant. He's a professor. It's like, even though he was involved and he had these sightings he wanted to talk about, and they were abductions, and he came out and said, well, Bud Hopkins had a way of getting information out of people. He got more out of my dad, who was finally, my parents agreed. They're like, all right, you just got to talk to him. Come on, please. It's important. The fate of the earth, that matters. This matters. He's like, all right, it's going to make you guys happy. And he got a lot of information out of my dad about a couple of abductions that were Sean and Mom and him taken out of a minivan. And my mom gave him enough information. And after talking to my mom, when we were alone, he said, your mother's been taken an awful lot, but she doesn't want to know it. So we're not gonna push her into it because she really doesn't want to know anymore. And I said, come on, I want to know. He's like, no, we're not going to. I know people, I know abductees. She doesn't want to know it anymore. We said, okay. And Dad came out with all kinds of crazy shit we didn't know. And these are cases, some of the ones are where I'm the witness, seeing people come and go, or other people are Mom's the witness, Sean comes in from an abduction. One time, my mother screams down to me, your brother, Chris, get up. Because I was living in that bedroom then. I was like 18 and he was probably like 11. Get up! Your brother's sleepwalking again. And I come up. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. My brother sleepwalks? There he is. And my brother had walked out off our carport, which was just a place to park with a roof on it. And there was a bright light coming down on him, and he's walking out into the yard onto the bright light. And my mom and I screamed, get over here! What are you doing? The light goes out. And my brother comes back in. And my mom, I know my mom had the burden in the family of knowing so much. And in that moment, my brother's coming back in. And she's like, out of breath and rash. She screamed down to me, "Come on, get him!" And I said, "Wow." My brother walks back to bed, and I said to Mom, "Wow, what do you think that was all about?" And she goes, "Oh, for Christ's sake, you know what that's all about. You know what it's all about." And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she just storms off in kind of lonely anger, carrying this family. Keep in mind, she was like 30. They were taking me. She was like 20 years old, 21 years old, dealing with this shit. Try having kids at 20. And add to that, everyone's getting grabbed by aliens. So,
well, it's just like one of those things that people don't like. It's just so much, it's just so tough to work through. Like, here she is, your mom's trying to be a mom, right? She's in her early 20s. Nobody has time for this, right? It's also that, like, not only are you dealing with people not believing, right? But yeah, I'm just glad you guys are coming forward. I'm sure your mom would be happy to know that you're putting some light on it and adding a lot of validation to people who need it, like people who hear your story. I can see it right now in the chat. It's resonating with them, and it makes them have this moment where it's like, okay, like maybe I can say I got abducted. These are two legit guys. They seem like good old, American normal dudes. I can do it too. And they don't seem like they're BSing either. It awakens things in people. So it's good. It's good. It's good that you guys are out. Questions that are.
We were toying with calling the book My Mom versus the Flying Saucers. And it's an option. And it's so hard because every mother tells their children there's no such thing as monsters. And they say it with such confidence when the kid has a nightmare. Wakes up, there's a monster. Don't worry. There's no such thing as monsters. Well, my mom knew there were monsters, and she knew she couldn't protect us. And I can't imagine that burden. So she's one of the reasons we are coming forward. Certainly. I mean, she went through so much in her life just dealing with this madness that she deserves recognition for it.
And maybe there's a person out there like your mom right now who's listening to this. And
I hope
who's struggling and having some light in their life because you've told your story. Something that comes up frequently with alien abductee interviews in general is people have questions about what they were physically like. So Stravo says, "Thank you for coming forward. What do they smell like?" Somebody else asks, "Do they wear clothes or uniforms?" So there's a lot of them. So I'm just going to lay them all down and then, answer how you want to. Another question from a different person about physical characteristics. Do they glow? Do they look iridescent? Do they shine or emit light?
Well, sometimes you can wear a lot of glitter.
Aspect.
If they're out of the club and they've got a lot of glitter on. But these are questions, and I hear them repeatedly. And especially the first one, do they smell? Because the whole Christian demon thing that they try to attack. The same people that say if you call out Jesus' name 3 times, or Candyman, or whoever else the name you call 3 times, and they go away, they're also kind of hell-bent on making it so the aliens smell like sulfur or brimstone or other demon colognes that are out there. And they don't smell. I never got a smell coming off them whatsoever. They're perfectly hygienic. I'll tell you that. They are clean. Their place is clean. They are. They don't.
It's not like the Fire in the Sky movie where there's children's shoes and tricycles hanging on the hallway floor.
Yeah, that's right. It's perfectly hygienic. It's like a surgical lab. The whole place. There's no fingerprints or
dust.
Yeah, there's no dust. There's no spit. There's no mud, even though they're bringing people through mud and stuff. Will you stop with that?
Oh, yeah. Okay. We got Chris here, Truth TV. And he says, please explain to people, say in the name of Jesus does not do anything for aliens. The aliens don't care what you say. You're a lab rat to them. They don't care if you have family, friends. And so it's just great. People are agreeing, right? Like the scary truth is exactly what we're talking about now that people don't want to talk about when we're all holding hands, love and light, starseed. They're taking children out of the parent. Like you're talking about your mom. Half the reason your mom probably like had a lot of trouble with this is because her 2 young boys were involved. Right? Like you're like, no, screw this. I don't care what entity's coming in my home. You do not come after my children. Right? Like, of course she'd be pissed every time you guys bring them up because she's just like, it's just this weird thing that probably just drove her nuts, obviously, you know.
The very first time I brought them up to her, I said to her, who are those people? Who are those people here last night, Mom? She was brushing her hair in the mirror and she freaked out. She dropped the brush. She whipped around. She turned beet red, bright red, and she grabbed me by the shoulders. She had to bend down because I was 5, 4. And she grabbed me a little too tightly by the shoulders. I hadn't been grabbed like that. And she's got her face in my face. And she's shaking me a little bit. She's making a point. And she's shouting / whispering. And, you know, a shout whisper like Christian Bale as Batman. You're not going to get away with this, Joker. That kind of thing. She says, we never, ever, ever talk about them. You can't ever tell anyone. You can't tell your teachers. You can't tell your friends. You can't even tell your father. And it was just the 3 of us at that point. And I said, why? She said, still gripping me, because they will not believe you.
Well, were Mom and Dad together just out of curiosity at this time?
Oh, yeah,
she was saying, don't tell your dad. Okay. Because,
you know,
like that's a huge thing that people see in these stories where people come out and they say they abduct and they try to use it as a custody thing. So I'm just wondering.
No, they were together till they died, 50 years. And that's tough for teenagers to live their lives faithful to each other. So, yeah, they were together, but I said, because they won't believe you. And I said, well, so what? It's true. And she said, it doesn't matter if it's true. They will never believe you. And they will take you away from me. And they will give you to some other family. And they will never let me see you again. So you can never tell them, do you hear me? I said, I got it.
Makes sense.
I think it was
sad. Yeah.
It was sad. Yeah. And all the pressure on her. And the last thing she said, because she's a mom, and she's got to kind of make it better. You know, she had this outburst. And what she said to me was, besides, they don't take us all that much, right? And I go, I don't know. Yeah. So she, I think she suffered a lot more than we did. So,
yeah, I can see how people would handle it atrociously, how it could just absolutely destroy their life.
And this was 1968. There were no resources.
Yeah, you're not getting online and finding Bud Hopkins or somebody that.
You're tapping your phone like in Green Acres where you put the mouthpiece, hello, operator, give me UFO 79 and hurry.
You both are just so great. I just want to say that you're both so great because it's like, this is what's so cool about this interview compared to a lot of interviews I've done is it's like, it's such a traumatic thing, right? And when you have conversations with people who are traumatized, they're like, you guys, let's just joke. Yeah, life's crazy, but let's have fun with it. Like, let's pep ourselves up. And so I'm just really glad you guys have come on the show.
Well,
a couple little questions, and it honestly, like, super genuine. Like, I am not BSing anybody. Like, this is not entertaining the fantasy. I look all the time for people, and a lot of the time, like, it's just cool. Like, that you guys are legitimate people coming forward and honestly just cutting through the BS, because a lot of the time you'll get people who are abductees and they'll be like, yeah, Screw's amazing. They're all on one little section. It's always this section. And you guys are like, no, we think this anyway. So just a couple more quick questions. I'm going to try to consolidate everything that Diane had. We talked about.
But one
the
second,
kids
though, before you start
No,
on this
yeah,
thread,
no.
another one of those questions was A, the smell, and the second one, do they wear clothes? Do they wear uniforms? Are they clothed? And I've never seen an alien nude, despite all the movie predictions and the movie depictions. They were always wearing clothes. And in fact, I've seen the only flesh I've really seen on them is the head, the arms, and maybe a bit through here. I think I saw a torso, kind of, but not much. They're wearing tunics or robes or pants and shoes and boots. And you know what? Some of them have a penchant for cloaks. They wear these cloaks.
I told Chris not to wear his cloak today. It was,
I would,
would raise
They
some
wear
eyebrows.
cloaks. I told Chris not to wear his cloak.
They wear
Why
cloaks.
not, Chris? Or his dad,
I left my cloak.
just showed up with the. Nice.
I'm the opposite, though. I don't ever remember specifically seeing clothing on them. And if it is clothing on them, it's almost the exact color of their skin. Like, I can't say that I remember seeing a nipple or a belly button or genitalia or a rear end crack or bare feet. But I also can't say for sure that they were wearing clothing. You know, you kind of get wrapped up in the head.
No bare feet. They don't have bare feet. That's an interesting thing you brought up. Oh, okay.
If they do or not.
I've seen them wearing boots. And when I see the cloak, I'm talking about the tall whites, you know, tall grays. They're much more white. And they're so white, they're like the belly of a fish. And there's no goddamn life in it. It just looks lifeless. It looks like a dead fish with these big black eyes and this white, grayish flesh. When I was in my youngest days, I thought they looked like ghosts because they kind of they'll wear a robe, black robe, something like that. And the talls I'm talking about, and they look dead. Their face, their mouths don't move. They're talking in your head. They look like ghosts till I was like 4 or 5. And then they started to resemble like a dead fish just walking towards you, the tall ones. And when I say cloaks, I've seen them wear a cloak. It was like, what it's like when an oil is in a puddle, the way the colors shift and shimmer. And they have fabrics like that. You know, if you look at it the right way, it's more yellow, it's more blue. They were wearing cloaks like that. And the colors in those, it's kind of sparkly. It was like Liberace wear. And it had a collar that comes up like Doctor Strange or Dracula. And like this, and then the cloak, and it was shimmering colors, and the only colors I've seen him wearing, and the cloaks, it was like a very pale mint green and a very, very light lilac with the colors that were in the cloak. Otherwise, they're wearing white or they're wearing black. And I've seen the short grays wearing what looks like a uniform, collar, black, with a thing around the neck and a thing around the cuffs, like a military kind of thing. And the middle, he's trotting along towards our house with another short gray back there. And this is the one Sean was for. That was another big, pivotal whole family, all-day event, ending with our dad coming home and finding the house black because everybody's been passed out when the aliens brought it back. That was a crazy day. But yeah, I've always seen clothes on them, but they don't like you looking at them. They don't like you memorizing what they look like. They don't like it. They don't want it. They don't want you observing details. They put you in this space where you can communicate, you can walk, you can cooperate, but you're not able to really focus on bringing back details with you. They don't like you. They don't like giving you evidence. They don't like it at all. So you're up against that. Could I pick the particular aliens that dealt with me out of a lineup? Probably not, but I could tell you,
Which ones aren't.
Yeah.
If there were.
So I just wanted to wrap that up because there were a few questions there, and then you were going to ask another question.
Yeah, I got 2 more questions. So you guys have been awesome. Literally answered every question that the audience has had. Literally no reason for no one to believe you. That's what's amazing. So the second to last one is are you RH negative? Are either of you RH negative for your blood type?
Yeah, we're both O negative.
You're O negative.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And then Guy, our new best friend, who needs to talk to you guys because he's also a huge experiencer. He's like, he's like, these guys, I get them. He's like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And they're like totally in alignment with what you guys, which I thought, I'm in alignment. And so he just said, hey, why aren't these two cops? Obviously, only Sean is a retired police officer.
Yep.
But would either of you be willing to testify for Congress if it was an option? I mean, you could plead the fifth on it or whatever.
I
thought that was an interesting comment.
You know,
what's up?
They wouldn't let us anywhere near there. Ross, Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp,
Barber.
They would never let us anywhere near there.
You know, Barber, his name is a psyop. He's completely bald. He doesn't need a barber. Just food for thought there.
Wait, so they're just so they won't let you near? Why aren't they letting you guys? Is this just too authentic for them?
They're of the opinion that everything is love and light and happiness, and they're here for us, and we can command their ships to appear.
Yeah. And
everything is good, and the Pentagon is the bad guys. These aliens are completely ready to give us free energy and knowledge if it weren't for the pesky, meddling Pentagon.
Yes, they won't let us. I would love it. First of all, I'm with that dude. Let us talk. Televise us before Congress or the Senate. It will make waves. It will be huge, and of course, but they won't let us.
Of course, we would tell them that they have no business, involved with the aliens. It's a Pentagon issue. I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene or Tim Burchett have the capacity of dealing with such a serious problem.
Or Nancy Mace or Luna in the MAGA bikini. Come on.
Leave it to the professionals.
I don't know. Come on. She did wear a bikini. Oh,
I mean, there's no bigger turnoff than a hot chick in a MAGA bikini. I'm sorry. It is a boner killer. It's a deal breaker. But we'll put us in front of Congress and we will make some serious waves. But the problem is we're exactly what they're trying to stop coming out. And they're so goddamn good at what they do that even though we've got a 60-year head start with this of abduction research and documentation, they just start trotting out, the lying crew, them, and they all look the same. Why do they all look the same? How come Grush looks exactly like Barber, looks exactly like Greer with the bald and the pinched face, kind of autistic, mousy look? Lou is the only one who looks the least bit different. Otherwise, they're just switching eyeglasses, as far as I can tell. I don't know why, but their job is to make sure what we have to say doesn't get out, because it would rock everything, and they don't want to. They don't. I sympathize. Not everybody should know this, and that's why they're pumping the whole UFO community full of lies.
I also think they don't want other people who know more than they do involved. A lot of it's like, I've been top dog of this field for 20 years, and I don't think abductions are happening, and I don't want somebody to come in and tell me they've met an alien.
Well, too goddamn bad, Greer. He's taking credit for
the Phoenix
Lights. Well, you know what? This is a good time. We can finally confess that Sean and I are responsible for Roswell.
Yeah.
We don't like to
brag. I knew it.
We did.
It's all your fault, both of you.
We used our psionic powers to travel through time, and we caused them to crash. We took control of their ship, just like the brilliant Dr. Greer says we can, right? Yeah. We confiscated their ship, and we crashed into the goddamn ground, and we high-fived when we did it. They were like, yeah! So
I knew it was you guys.
Yeah, you know what? Sue us.
Cat's out of the bag. Cat's
Sorry.
out of the bag.
Sorry, Jesse Marcells. We didn't really mean it. It just kind of happened. So, and let me say that my opinion of these official whistleblowers is just my opinion. Do not sue me. Okay? But I'm entitled to my opinion. And based on what they're saying, they're self-admittedly, they've never met an alien.
They're public figures too at this point.
Yeah, they've never been on a ship. And I'm a comedian, so that means I can mock public figures. So don't sue us, because we're certainly.
But I will tell you this much: we know more than any one of them who they don't even claim to have seen an alien ever.
Nope.
You know, perhaps one or two of them have and aren't allowed to say it. Like it's a possibility that Lou Elizondo has, but I doubt it.
Yep. Well, that is a possibility. They've never talked with an alien. They've never been on an alien ship. They've never been on the table. They've never had their mind controlled.
They've never had an alien in their house.
Yeah, never. And aliens walk right into your house.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They just walk into your house. Everybody who thinks you're telepathically flying and meeting an astral alien, whatever. But the aliens we know, they just walk into your house. They'll land in your backyard, or they'll be low enough where they can drop out of it and levitate down, and they will just walk in your house. They don't knock. They don't call ahead. Yeah, well, how's Tuesday doing with you guys? You going to be around? I don't know why. Just, they just march in like they own it and like they own you. And that's their attitude. They don't think humans. This is how much of a space brother they are. They don't think humans deserve to have the autonomy to control their own body or their mind. Nope. They don't. We don't have the right to be left alone, and we don't have the right to make our own decisions. They will reach into your head and they will make you do what they want you to do, and you'll think it was you.
And of course, we treat animals the same way, though. So
maybe not you, but yeah, I'm not saying we don't. This isn't karma, but that's exactly how they treat us. They're like, oh, they're taking us. Do they ever ask? I get this a lot. Do they ever ask about your culture, our art, our music, our religions, our philosophies, our pastimes, our familiar love? Yeah, no, they don't. You know why? Because they don't care about anything you have to say. They don't think you're smart enough to even really talk to in any other way than to soothe you like a vet does. Oh, well, easy, big boy. This will be over soon. You can be back home. Won't hurt much. It's a little more than that, especially with Sean, and they've had a lot of conversations with me. I had the same bunch for decades, and they knew me pretty well. But they don't think human race has the right to make up their own mind. And you certainly don't have the right to stop them from taking your DNA and into their Dr. Frankenstein lab and coming up with a whole bunch of creatures and then saying, oh, yeah, we're keeping them. Yeah, and we're just going to keep breeding you as long as we feel like it. And then tell me again how they're light and love. Tell me for 1 minute how kidnapping children. And you get so many excuses from people. There's so many alien apologists in this goddamn field. It's enough to make you sick.
That was one of Ross's big things. They've got to have their reasons for coming in and taking you as a child and kidnapping you, right? It may be technically illegal, but they've got to have like a reason to justify it.
Yeah,
like, okay.
Surely they have the reasons.
Yeah, so does a killer,
Yeah, so did the Zodiac killer. He had his reasons.
He had reasons.
He liked killing.
Yeah. He liked the Zodiac too.
Yeah, they do have a reason. They want to do it to you. That's their reason. And they want to use it to foment an occupation of this planet with their own creatures. That's the reason. It has nothing to do with us. It's not like they're coming and curing our polio or changing our wasteful climate, change habits. They don't have anything to do with you. You're just a resource.
They are familiar with, I don't know if you want to call it culture or what's the word I'm looking for?
Are you going to tell this?
No.
Okay.
Well, they're very familiar with people.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
There is one thing.
Whoa. I caught that, but I'll just.
Well, Amy, it's like this. We've been very forthright about everything we've said.
100%.
And there may be only one thing that we're not going to say here today.
I mean, we're not covering everything. We've got many more incidents.
Yeah, but there's one that we're not ready to discuss.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
A lot of people are ready to hear. So just that one thing, the aliens revealed a knowledge of
the future involving
that is a future that has already come to pass, as unlikely as it was. So, but just other than that,
he got in a lot of trouble for telling me too.
Yeah, they have a weird. Aliens have a strange back and forth. They almost play good cop, bad cop sometimes. One of them is a dick, and the other one is really kind and helpful and tells you a couple things that he shouldn't. And then the other one comes down on him and like a ton of bricks. What the hell are you telling him for?
Yeah, he was furious.
Yeah, and I've had him furious at me for the same thing. You know, one guy is spilling some beans.
Yeah.
And like it happened to you and told you an event that came to pass, and the other one just tore him an asshole. So.
Well, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. We've been almost going for 3 hours.
Yeah. Oh,
and I'm so thankful that you guys took the time out of your life and your day to just sit here and come on my little show. We had a really...
I have no personal life whatsoever, and he's retired.
I've been retired for 11 years now.
Thank you for fixing this on a day you have off, so you were able to...
Yes. Well, it's not every day that I want to take the time out for you guys to be able to say it all. Like, it's, well, I've been down the road. I've talked to a lot of different people who like have duped me, and like, I learned later and it's just, so I think I got a really good knack for that's why, Chris, you jumped on that Spaces. And I was like, I've been doing this 5 years, like getting online, talking about it, consistently interviewing abductees. And you got on and you started talking. And I was blown away. So I'm more than grateful that we were able to take these 3 hours out of all of our lives to sit down and share it. I'm not going to be shocked in the future if this gets clipped and it's everywhere really soon, because people are going to be blown away.
And by the way, we've just covered a couple of the big bullet points. Someday,
we could talk
next year or something when Deb's back, and we will fill in a lot more. We just tried to cover the important things today. So that's what happens with decades of being with the aliens. It's just there's too much to go over, but you've got a good knack for what's important, and we're very welcome to run into you. I went into that space looking for a fight. That's what I did. I went in there and the Light and Love, Stephen Greer, Professor X, and Psionics.
Yeah, you were talking smack at the begining. Yeah. And then I was like, I like this guy. He's fiery. And then you're like, and I've been abducted. And I was like, yeah, right. I think I said something like that.
Then it turned.
Because I didn't know who you were, right? We were just chit-chatting at that point.
Yeah. And the room kind of turned. They're like, okay, well, then tell me why this. And, when we can answer it. But thank you, Amy. We're indebted.
Yeah, thank you,
and
guys.
it was just a great time.
Yeah, and thanks for everybody who watched.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Everybody who showed up. I'm going to put you guys back in the green room. I know you might be busy, or gray room. I'm just going to thank out the people, thank out the sponsors, and I'll meet you back. And see you in a second, guys. Thank you so much. Wow, guys. We really lucked out. We had... Yeah, that was legit, right? We brought you legitimate abductee experience right there. This was absolutely amazing. I want to say thank you, Will, for being a member of the channel for 16 months. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for a $2 super chat. Nathan hooked it up with a $1.11 super chat. Thank you, Diane, $2 super chat. Nathan, again, a $1.99 super chat. And thank you to everybody. Guy, who made it very interesting talking to you. Definitely reach out to us. There just seems to be a lot of things resonating. And And then thank you, SJ, all the questions, Tony, Nathan for making it. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Flubber. Thank you, King Bull. And I think that's it, guys. So I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who came and joined, and we listened, and we had such a great time. And I will be back on Friday morning. I am going to be back to my regular time. No more slacking. Actually, I might slack. I might go later that day too. But hey, man, sometimes it's just going to be a little bit different. It's going to shake it up. So I'll see you guys on Friday. I'm going to be talking about the new the new discovery of these giant cylindrical items that are under the Egyptian pyramids that they just found. So I hope you guys join us then. All right. I love you guys. Peace. Bye.